Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Shadowverse. Today is Monday, October 18th. Let's hop in. So, the solo reward expansion for Shadowverse happened to end on the 17th. So, I had to play a little bit extra off screen just to make sure I got everything, all the rewards. Just grinding out playing the single player things. I did manage to beat Leon, the most difficult character, once, which gave me a big boost of things. So yeah, Leon was built. I defeated once. I could have probably defeated him maybe one more time because you can only defeat him once per day. And then that gave me a nice boost of points, so I wasn't going to have to spend another hour grinding through it, because it gave me 700 points for doing that, plus 200 points here for doing that. And then that got me all the rewards. I guess October 17th is when I thought it ended, but actually this ends November 17th, so at this point, there's no reason to play this, which I guess is fine, because it sucked and it was wasting my time, so good riddance, I suppose. Throughout that process, I also got to level 130 in Havencraft, which can give us a little bit more. And let's see. Do I even want to re-roll this 20 gold? Probably you do. So we'll try and win some Portalcraft victories. Let's start by opening a pack and then hop into it. I think went a little short on Friday, so we've got more games left over than we probably should have. Otherwise, I want to just try and burn through things. Wow. First thing you open, you get Chrono Witch. That's pretty good. Let's buy another one if you're gonna do that well on the build. Over the weekend, on top of playing more Shadowverse, I am still playing Lego Pirates of the Caribbean. That as a game has crashed 4 or 5 times now, but not really running into micro-stuttering, still running into an occasional hitching though. But with the exception of one time, I've only seen the hitching happen in the hub world, and it stopped really hitching in the hub world once I started unlocking the characters. So something about having the shadow effect and the image above a character indicating that you can that character is available for purchase to unlock with the in-game currency. Something about that pushes it over the limit of the GPU's processing ability, which I would have to just assume that they ran some kind of mathematical equation that was trying to get them to use 100% of the video RAM, and then in some other part of the code, they started pumping it up past 100% of the video RAM, and that caused that problem. It's just bad math, bad programming. But yeah, compared to some of the worser Lego games, it does seem like treating it in Windows 7 mode or Windows Vista mode, I think I am going to try to bump it down to even a younger version, an earlier version of Windows, to see if that compatibility mode makes it work even better.
I bring unto you serenity.
And disabling full screen optimizations, both of which you have to go to the exe file and right click on it and go to properties and the compatibility tab to enable those functions. Seems like both of those things definitely have made it reasonable to play Lego games once again. Now, there is a big problem substance-wise with Disney Lego Pirates of the Caribbean. First of all, having 2 titles sucks, but there is a big issue there in which it doesn't have well enough thought out visual gags and cutscenes and pantomime to explain to me what's going on in the movie. So I just very often have no idea why I'm doing something or why the thing I'm doing is moving me to the next level. If they were going to do it lazy, they should have just gotten the voice acting from the movie and put it in the game like they did one of the other games. Seems like they were half in and half out with that idea. And even at that, there's definitely need for like twice as much game. It needs vehicle levels if you can't do anything else. Like Lego Star Wars, the original Lego Star Wars games had vehicle levels that was made by a different company. And yeah, nobody liked the vehicle levels, but if they were missing, you would have had half as many levels in the game.
You have entered the lightless domain.
And it makes sense for the Pirates of the Caribbean point in particular that you could have had a mini game where you were playing Battleship with Lego pirate ship, minifig pirate ships, or mini fig pirate ships, I suppose is how you explain them. Really small, like 10, 20 piece pirate ships. That you get those kinds of pirate ships when you get 10 of the mini kit bottles. So
What fine threads you have.
there was already a possibility
This'll be over quick.
for that to exist. They just needed to have programmed it, and obviously they didn't. Alright, well, we can't evolve until one turn, so it's end the turn here. But yeah, you could have had races. I found in one free play level so far there is like a predecessor to the idea of a race, but it's not timed or anything. You just have to move around through gates at any pace you wish.
100% string and 0% fluff.
Discard the repair mode.
Pigs, where are you?
Begin.
The design fault lies with you.
Ancient artifact.
Don't forget to snag some merch.
Not a puppet. I thought I was gonna get a puppet, but I guess not.
Hostile life form detected.
Well, whatever.
Hold still.
Yeah, I don't think Disney Pirates of the Caribbean is a particularly good Lego game. I think it's probably one of the weakest. I don't think the Pirates of the Caribbean movies are even particularly that good, which is a shame because there's definitely room for that idea. Pirates are basically just Robin Hood on water, or cowboys, bad guy cowboys, stagecoach robbers on water. So there's a lot of room there. Plus, being in the ocean, in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies in particular, introduced the idea of voodoo and magic and magical creatures. So there was a lot of room for moving down that idea and continuously having magical creatures and magical events. But they seemingly are just
Hold still.
from looking at the Lego version presentation of the Pirates movies, because it's been a long time since I've seen any of the Pirates movies, and I don't think I've seen them all. It feels like they were just too focused on talking about Jack Sparrow. I don't know if that's egos of the actor who played Jack Sparrow or if that's something else. And I know Disney definitely is not going to do any more business with the actor who played Jack Sparrow, so they would have to do a full-on soft reboot. But that would work fairly well. Like, they introduced this whole idea of like a dozen different kind of pirate kings, each that had their own ship. That would have made a lot of sense to have spin-off movies starring all of those characters. And it would make a lot more sense if it was just a Disney Plus at this point, or a TV series when it originally came out. Just constantly having a 30 to 45 minute episode each week around Pirates of the Caribbean would have, I think, worked a lot better. There is a TNT show called Tales from the Badlands that I suppose wouldn't be too far away from that, and that's a fairly high action kung fu show, and maybe that caused it to have closer to 8 or 9 episodes instead of 22 or 36 episodes per season, but it still looked really, really good and didn't have to drag out several plots into one longer movie, 1 2-hour movie. So, you, having just played the Lego game and barely remembering the movies, it feels like they failed miserably to establish Elizabeth as the main character. They failed miserably to establish Will Turner as an interesting character. They write out Elizabeth and Will Turner at the third movie, and then they introduce a
Hostile life form.
former girlfriend, basically, of Jack Swan, the main character. They kind of failed miserably to grow the main character, the pirate character, as a character. He's still a womanizing, selfish, jerkish character at the end of the fourth movie, even, when it would have made sense for him to be somewhat like that because he's a pirate, but also grow away from that and have some likable characteristics at least, by the end of at least the second movie, probably halfway through the second movie. And there's a whole movie there where he is effectively dead, and all of his pirate friends, who he probably wouldn't even consider pirate friends, spend half of a movie looking to save him, resurrect him. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It just feels like it was bad writing, and I get some of that they are trying to probably just more focus on have more action scenes, but even the action scenes aren't particularly interesting. I definitely, in the middle of making the Lego Pirates of the Caribbean game, had to go on the rant of just like Hollywood whitewashing. Like, you can't deny that for a movie series called Pirates of the Caribbean, there is a considerable lack of dark-skinned actors and main characters in that. And in the third movie, when they introduce a Chinese character, they seemingly have Elizabeth replace the role and pretend to be a Chinese character, storyline wise, which still, I mean, it's still yellowface if you write in the story that a white woman does yellowface to pretend to be Asian for plot contrivances. And the main concern there definitely is the fact that there easily could have been an attempt to have an actual Asian actor play that role and not just cram Elizabeth in that role. And it seems so blatantly apparent that the only reason they even had a Chinese pirate and a Chinese ship is not because historically it's very relevant to say that that there was a time when the Chinese ships and pirates were super large and super in charge. That there is definitely a lot of history there if you're going to tell that history. But Disney didn't do it because of that, and we all know that Disney was just trying to pander to the Chinese market and failed, and then they tried to do that in the third movie, and by the fourth movie they had pretty much abandoned that idea. Like, there is a lot of logic, certainly, that there could have been a Disney Pirates, probably dropped of the Caribbean part. There could have been a Disney Pirates movie every year, counter-programmed against a Marvel movie, because it's basically the same thing. It's actions, it's dumb fun, it's summer blockbuster action movies. It's not gonna be deep or mentally stimulating or anything like that.
100% string and 0% fluff.
So, yeah, there definitely could have been one of those, a movie coming out to balance out the Marvel movies and the superhero movies, but they kind of failed to succeed with the Pirates movies before Iron Man really had established itself as the beginning of the long-running Marvel series. But yeah, they may have to actually revisit that fairly quickly. Of course, if they were going to revisit it, they would just reboot the Pirates of the Caribbean movie series and recast all of it. And I don't think that there still is a lot of drama around Amber Heard and I forget his name, the actor who played Jack Sparrow. So I think they would almost have to wait a decade for that drama to stop happening before they would even try and touch it. And really the only reason why Disney ever made a Pirates of the Caribbean movie is I think they had a ridiculously long running contract with that actor that they were just trying to churn out as many movies in a certain amount of time as possible with him. And he kind of isn't the right character, the right kind of actor you'd want in a movie like that. They need to take more risks on newer actors, particularly for action movies. There is a problem with movie making having become just too dangerous for a flop, and they can no longer take a risk on a new actor, and so we have Harrison Ford still playing Indiana Jones and Han Solo decades later, when that clearly should have been a recasting or a new movie with a character like Han Solo. And I guess they did recast a character in Solo, in the movie called Solo, and I don't think there was any complaints around that, but also there wasn't really any accolades around it. I think Solo as a prequel movie in the Star Wars series was probably a mistake because people knew that where Han Solo was going to end up anyways. So it was wrong timing and wrong focus. It would almost make more sense to make a Solo prequel that was talking about a father or grandfather of Han Solo, some character that doesn't have to particularly still be alive and intact by the beginning of episode 4. Let's see, do I have anything else to talk about? Not really. I've been working on a lot of projects, side projects, non-YouTube projects. Let's see if this actually works. Will this give me 2 copies of this? No. It gives you 2 copies of the other guys. Well, that sucks. Here. And here. And here.
How foolish.
Hostile life form detected. Terminating hostile life form.
The DC fandom happened to get away from Disney and Marvel and talk about DC instead. And from getting the general coverage of it, it seems like there wasn't too much video game related, but we'll cover what was video game related as far as announcements. But there was seemingly enough movies announced in the DC next attempt at making movies, and I think they've got a couple of TV shows also that spooked Marvel and DC and Disney a little bit, and now Disney has delayed several of the Marvel movies.
And those acorns flying out of the woods.
It is an interesting thought. How would the Marvel Cinematic Universe potentially end or take a step back? Because, like, I imagine Disney would just have to delay and then delay and delay and just hope they could string people along for a really long time before all interest just disappeared. Ideally, if Marvel really was having trouble making if Disney was having trouble making movies, or Marvel, either one, and they needed like a decade in total in which they weren't actually going to produce any new content, theoretically you would try and
Terminating hostile life form.
trickle out new movies or promises of new movies as much as possible to
Terminating
keep people
hostile life
interested.
form.
Verifying access.
Let's see. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna win here. Let's move on to the news. Here we have a game on Steam called Summer Intrigue. Trigue, I assume that's Intrigue. It seems like it is a dating simulator visual novel. LGBTQ plus from the looks of it. You have some fairly nice Western animation style characters here. Nobody looks off art model. Nobody looks weird. There is kind of a type here. You're going with tall characters, mostly large-breasted characters. One of them has glasses. Two of them are tanned. Looking over here, several different hair colors, but no crazy wild, like pink hair or anything like that. Seems fairly realistic. Now, I will leave it to people to decide whether you would want to play a dating simulator game or a romance game with a free uncensored DLC. Do you want realism there? Or do you want fetish and fantasy there? Because if you want fetish and fantasy, this doesn't really feel like this is going to give it to you. And certainly I could go on the rant and say, hey, this might be what a good middle ground between the SJWs saying that they want to see women depicted realistically could be. I would say anatomically these look like very realistic characters, in considering the art style and all. But the problem is that there is enough crazy SJWs out there that would say, hey, no, you can't show any skin because that's misogyny and that's objectification, even if it is a visual novel for lesbians from the looks of it. And it's being, you could see an SJW going, oh, well, this is done from the male gaze, or this character is being objectified or tokenized because they have dark skin, and then you're just attracted to this character because of their race instead of getting to know them, which, I mean, any relationship is going to, at least at the beginning, start with an appearance. So, yeah, sometimes you do just have to make some snap visual judgments before you can start to get to know people. And I wouldn't be surprised if this was supposed to be an Asian character, and then SJWs might complain about that. Or this character might be older or a mother, and people would complain about that. There's just always room for complaint. And I don't know if the true people who would buy an adult visual novel might look at a game like this and say it's just a little too normal and a little too boring. I kind of want to see some feedback, so I'm going to put it on the follow list. It is a little too expensive at $15.29. I also wonder just how long the actual game is. But yeah. You really have to, as a video game critic, consider the audience when looking at a lot of games, and realize that there are a lot of games out there that are for a niche audience and not just for a general audience. And so you have to look from their perspective whether they're happy or not.
I bring unto you serenity.
I hope you're ready to escort.
Of course, I'm mostly just preaching at this point instead of covering the news, so we should just hurry up. Here we have a game called Tafel Champions, Ancient Chess. If this is the chess game I remember, this might be one of these ancient ones that they just figured out the rules for, or think they figured out the rules for. And most of these ancient versions of something that resembles chess actually are perfected mathematically, so you're kind of guaranteed a victory once you learn the movements, and they're not anywhere as complicated as the traditional chess games are. so an actual human can figure out how to do the perfect move every time. And that's more than likely the reason why a lot of these games fell out of memory and favor. This one is an online PvP only, but it requires a third-party account and in-app purchases. Playfab.com. One of the things that Steam has said is that they weren't going to allow NFTs or cryptocurrencies mechanics, blockchain mechanics, I think in general, in games listed on Steam. Almost predictably, the Epic Game Store said they will welcome those things. So, if anything, the Epic Game Store has, from my perspective, in my opinion, and I'll just leave it at that, they have pwned themselves and said that they are going to become the marketplace for garbage games. Which at a certain point, that might make Steam even better as a storefront, as if all of a sudden all the garbage game developers start putting all their junk on Epic Game Store, and Steam is the high quality place to go to get decent games, at least.
All of you.
But yeah, we shall see how many cryptocurrency NFT games actually end up on the Epic Game Stores, considering how the Epic Game Store really isn't an open storefront where you can just pay $100 and have a game listed like Steam Direct is. For as bad as Steam Direct is, it is at least invoking the idea of being an open storefront, which is not 100% true, but it's definitely true enough. They still curate and look at games submitted. Moving on, Gamatsu says Oddworld Soulstorm Enhanced Edition launches in late November, which I am not sure I even remembered that Soulstorm itself had come out. I remember they had announced it. There's a lot of pictures here that are just the same thing. But like a lot of games, there was a lot of talk and promotion for when it was going to come out, and then it pretty much disappeared.
The sight of living flame into your eyes.
Yeah.
Such a good guinea pig. I can't move.
And I still don't feel like I would ever have a good experience with Oddworld, unfortunately. I'd like to have a good experience with Oddworld. It's just, it's seemingly unlikely that that would actually happen.
This under control.
What fine threads you have. This'll be over quick.
Let's see. Koch Media in the UK and Ireland put out some presentations for their Hot Wheels Unleashed DLC, I guess, of the
Power of mortality.
DC cars, or cars representing DC characters. Doesn't seem like it really wants to play that much, this video. The question certainly will be, though, how much is the Hot Wheels Pass Volume 1, and how much separately is each of these DLC things? So far, we still haven't seen anything that indicates that they would have actual in-game currency that you'd have to buy and that would turn Hot Wheels into a in-app purchase experience, but it has definitely the visuals and the feel of a game that has in-app purchases with loot boxes. Even though you're just using in-game currency, I don't know if I can. I really can't suggest that any parent would let a kid play Hot Wheels Unleashed. Just the way it depicts the unlock scenes.
Prepare for defeat.
And I think more gamers and more parents of gaming kids really need to start putting their foot down on that concept and just absolutely 100% boycotting games that have loot box opening sequences, even if it is only being using in-app currency and never real-world money. The visual flash of that and the correlation to that is not something that I think parents should let their kids become involved in or see. In the same way that I don't think it's particularly healthy to give a fake slot machine to a young kid, even if it is a slot machine that only uses plastic coins, or you can just always pull the lever or something like that. That's still too close to the activity that has been proven to be addictive. So I don't know why you would take such a dangerous step. There are definitely parents out there that won't let their kids play with toys that have fake plastic credit cards for the exact same reason. And at a certain level, depending how young the kid is, I understand that too. That if behaviors are defined at a very early age, and expectations and just normalization of dangerous or unintelligent activity happens at that early age, it is almost certainly going to affect behavior later on.
Terminating hostile life form.
And I wouldn't give a kid candy cigarettes for the same reason.
Hold still.
Of course, I know there's probably more things to be concerned about for parents than such things, but and arguably if you start talking about sugar, like diet habits, yeah, establishing a healthy diet habit should be a major goal of every parent. Get early.
Useless puppets get no love.
Teach children early to moderate their sugar intake.
The sunlight is unwelcoming.
Would be a great lesson to potentially learn.
Begin.
Emergency mode activated.
Let's see.
Oh, my beloved Nava.
Enemy
Take that.
identified.
Moving on, Infinity Ward is hiring for a bunch of positions. So if you want to go to careersinfinityward.com, this article is not like a retweet or response to anything, so it doesn't make the most sense. Great response already to the news of Infinity Ward Austin. Period. I guess it should be New Line at that point. We're hiring many positions across the new studio team. I guess we had talked about Infinity Ward opening a new Austin office a few days ago. I kind of don't even remember it. Here.
Sleep.
Tell me what to do like this.
Just trying to kill as many characters. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Sacred Fire, a role-playing game, which I'm not sure if there's a real game here or not.
Okay.
Seems like there's a lot of almost like VATS interface here, where it seems like there's kind of no combat at all. You maybe just to randomly put against characters, and then based on conversation or skills, you seem to succeed or lose. Yeah. Seems like you create a character, and then you have this flat experience. Is this a game somebody would really want to play, though? Skyrim would be very different if it was this. I just don't think there's a game there. English full audio, 1619. Yeah. I kind of want to put this on the follow list just to see if other people like it, so I'm going to, but in all realisticness, there's
Accept harmony.
Nothing shall alter the cosmic flow.
here we have a game we can immediately dismiss. Jackpot bin action. I wonder if we're going to start seeing a lot of games like this getting shoved out onto Steam as fast as possible. This is tagged as a hidden object puzzle game. To me, it definitely looks like it is a low effort gambling game. It's English and French, it's $5.99. Yeah, and obviously it's hideous to look at, so I'm gonna say no to that.
Witness the power.
The Epic Game Store says we are investigating players having issues logging into their Epic Game account via Facebook login. We advise you to log into your account with the Epic Game credentials. In the meantime, they'll update you when you have more information. Here we have another jackpot bin action. $5.99. This is developers are Benny, publisher is Bin Action. So yeah, he's flooding Steam with garbage games that look horrible. Let's see, I guess we'll play this.
All of you.
And then involve this. Attack here. End of turn. So yeah, as I mentioned before, Disney has now, since the DC fandom, and I have to assume this being like one day later, that this was totally based on what was announced at the DC fandom. They have delayed Doctor Strange, Thor 4, Black Panther sequel, and Indiana Jones 5. Let's see. Moving from Doctor Strange from 325 to 5.6. None of this is video game related per se, but it very well might be a video game spin-off. If anything, there would probably have been Lego video games that were made based on these Marvel movies. Some of this definitely could have been pandemic related, but it's a weird thought, to say the least, that you would try to steal DC's thunder by announcing delays. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Everything was a lie.
Terminating hostile life form.
You can bring change.
Verifying access.
will cut you down. Truth and lies.
Yeah, I really don't think you're stealing some news press good news. You're not making good news for yourself, at the very least, by announcing delays like that. My only other thought would be that Disney looked at the DC fandom announcements and saw it as pretty much not much of a threat. So I guess maybe they thought that not that much was announced. There is arguably a lot of ridiculous nonsense press that DC was getting before this, in the fact that the Superman's son, John, came out as bisexual as a just gimmick. Like, I mean, you really can't call it anything else besides a gimmick to pander. He's a new character, and that probably is the best way to introduce a new character, is if you're gonna introduce their sexuality. But yeah, it's better to do that than to make Kal-El, the actual Superman, bisexual, after considering how Kal-El has been married to or dating Lois Lane for the vast majority of his run. So yeah. One thing I had heard about people talking about that and just rambling on about John, I think Kent, which is Superman's son, is that they seem to indicate amongst DC and Marvel there's a lot of romance that is depicted and talked about and shown. And I'm no expert in comic books, certainly, but I kind of don't believe that to be true. In the early days, Marvel and DC Comics had romance comics, and definitely they were trying to show it, to potentially appeal to maybe a more female audience, or just a romance novel audience. But they kind of gave up on that idea a fairly long time ago. Like, I really don't feel like there has been a romance comic that is really focused around romance in a very long time amongst Marvel and DC. There are some characters that are married or have romances, but noticeably Spider-Man's romance and marriage was erased. So main characters tend not to have romances, and normally it isn't a romance as much as you just have a character who is married, so all the romance part is already gone. It's just marriage, and now you're stuck with the people forever. Sue Storm might be a kind of great example of that.
All of you.
Where she and the Mr. Fantastic character never really feel like they are actually in love. They just seem like they are stuck with each other and married. I'm not really succeeding here, and I'm wasting time playing with the ad blocker for no good reason. Yeah, let's continue with the news. We've got a lot of news today, and me getting sleepy and starting to forget about things is not going to be helpful. I am still very much in that point where I'm kind of back to streaming early fairly consistently, but the way I'm doing it is by then falling asleep at 10 or 11 in the morning and not waking up until late in the evening, so I'm sleeping most of the day away and accomplishing most things at night, which I'm fine with that, but most the rest of society is not fine with somebody doing that. You definitely see a different percentage chance of success playing a Grand Prix versus just playing ranked versus playing unranked, which I guess you should see that in any collectible card game, but in most you don't. And particularly for this game, since it is effectively just pushing you towards doing the Grand Prix and pushing you to play ranked. There's a lot of people, I would imagine, that are like me who would prefer just to play unranked for everything and call it a day and not engage in actual competition, but then are getting forced into engaging. Moving on, here we have a game called Love Abduction, The Guide to Galactic Lovers. So this is kind of the opposite of that other visual novel, in that it is very much the anime art style, and you have a alien probably made with green hair. You have a blonde-haired Navy captain outfit character. You have a shorter, more petite-looking character with pink hair and a star in it. You have a taller, pink-haired character with twin tails, twin ponytails, and a fish for some reason, probably for a comedy reason. This does say it's a comedic visual novel. She's also wearing a collar. Her breasts also are fairly varied from the size of some of the other characters' breasts, so they're swinging somewhat in size. So I'd say there's a lot more variety visually here if you want the anime art style. If you don't, then of course this is going to be a no-go for you. It's $11.69. It's Japanese with full audio, which the other game didn't have that. Yep. And I guess we just put it on the follow list. I think at some point there probably will have to be a reckoning, in which I have to figure out a better system to decide whether a visual novel should be on the follow list or the wish list or not. But at the moment, I'm just sticking to the standard method of operating, which is just waiting to see if it ever gets 30 reviews and if they're positive reviews, and then considering it. Here we have a game called Wardens. It says it's a customizable board game with card battle. There are elements. Yeah, I may just not be willing to make decisions today. Like, I think I'd probably dismiss this outright, but I want to give it a chance. Single player with online PvP, English full audio, $15.29. Doesn't seem to have any in-app purchases, which may be a problem for this style of game. It's tagged as with magic, and I don't know if that's supposed to be because there's magic in the game or if they're trying to imply this is somewhat similar to Magic the Gathering. Create your own cards, but then the cards move the pieces on the chessboard, Which that doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah. If they can figure out a system like that, that would be interesting. But I don't know how you would make a real-world collectible card game like that. You'd almost have to have a collectible card game that had tokens that you popped out to use the tokens to represent a card while you were playing. I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense. If I'm not careful though, I'm gonna put everything on the follow list tonight. Yeah, we have a game called Echo of Allu, A-Y-L-L-U, which looks like a more traditional collectible card game. Maybe not visually the most appealing one I've ever seen. It's early access, free to play, English and French, but it requires a third-party account, so one would have to assume that they're trying to have all the in-app purchases go through that third-party account and cut out Steam and their transaction fees, which I wouldn't be surprised if Steam actually lets a couple of small companies get away with that, and doesn't even care, because they've got the numbers to back up the idea that it wouldn't sell. The other thing though is this could be in early access, so while it's in early access they're not selling any cards. That would make a lot of sense too. Let's see. Do this. Do this. Do that.
Perfect place to
And
land.
that.
I've got this under control.
Here we have a game called Hanoi Puzzle Flip Match, which doesn't really look like the Hanoi Puzzle so much. I guess it probably is a twist on that, but it looks a little too neon-y for my liking, and the general concept of the
That's enough flight for one day.
recursive movement necessary to do a Hanoi puzzle doesn't really feel like something that would be fun. Yeah, I don't see anything here that interests me. 79 cents, English, Portuguese, Brazil. Do this.
What fine threads you have.
Do this.
This'll be over quick.
Do this.
Oh, guinea pigs, where are you?
Begin.
The design fault lies with I am such a
Do
genius.
that.
You won't hold me back.
You'll never
And
catch
that.
me.
Let's see, next we have a game on Steam called Dark Magic 2, which looks way too zoomed in and looks like an asset flip, like dungeon crawler for lack of a better term. Does not look like they're really trying there. $3.99, English only. Here we have a game called Roxy Raccoon, which looks like nothing. English, full audio. Say no to that. Here we have Project Cat Paper Lily Prologue, which is prologue, so we don't have to really deal with it. Looks like it's probably a psychological horror RPG Maker game. Although I will say that it looks like there's more up close scenes than your standard RPG Maker game. That this is free, but why play the prologue to something that is not going to be a full experience?
Hostile life form detected.
Let's see. Next, we have a game called Lotto Life, which looks like an asset flip garbage game. $8.99 English full audio. We can say no to that. Here we have a game called Ruka. Which looks like it's a box pushing game. I kind of like the art here. Yeah, I don't think I want to just immediately dismiss it as a box pushing game, even though I'm fairly certain that's exactly what it is.
Verifying access.
Come on. Yeah, I think I'll put Ruka on the fall list. Well, it's free. I guess there's no reason. It's English only. Check it out. It's inspired by a game called Helltaker, apparently. And assuming that is a game and not some comic book series or something.
Homeland.
Let's see. Next we have a Caps Cyber Animal Planet Survival, which that sounds like just a ridiculous mix of words. Looks like it is a top-down twin-stick shooter. Yeah, nothing there of interest. It's too zoomed in for a twin-stick shooter. $13.99 English only.
Tell me what to do, please.
An opportunity for growth.
Play that.
And lies. Everything was a lie. The truth will let you die.
Let's see. Video Game Chronicle says the Switch's online new expansion tier will cost double at $50 or £35. I think we'd already heard this price. It's ridiculously high for what they have been offering in the past and what they are offering now. Yeah, and generally, if anybody has anything to say about it, they are not happy with the price.
She is the bloom.
And in all fairness, even if you had offered nearly every single Nintendo 64 game that ever came out at $50, that still is a fairly high price for what you're getting.
Terminating hostile life form.
An opportunity for growth.
And yeah, what can we say? Nintendo's greedy. Nintendo's tone deaf. Nintendo is idiotic. And there's enough idiot Nintendo fanboys who I may have been a Nintendo fanboy in a past life, certainly a couple decades ago. There's still probably enough Nintendo fanboys out there that would buy this. I don't know if there's a lot though.
Shutting down.
The thing here specifically is the Nintendo 64 has been notoriously hard to emulate, but it is emulatable on a PC nowadays. So if Nintendo was going to really try to make their money on Nintendo 64 games, they would have had forward compatibility or for a lot longer. Like once the Nintendo 64 was done, they went to the GameCube. There was no way to put a Nintendo 64 cartridge into a GameCube and play it, as far as I recall. Whereas there was a way, I think at one point, to plug in an NES into a Super NES machine. Am I dreaming that up? Maybe. I think I am. There definitely was a way to put Game Boys into Super NES games. And they didn't even on the GameCube really try to even port the Nintendo 64 games to disc formats, which that's what you really would have expected to see is, oh, we're selling these games now on these CDs. CDs take less space and are cheaper. Why aren't we reselling every single game we sold in the previous generation? But they kind of didn't do it. They did it for a couple games, and that was it.
Perish before true magic. Mortality.
But now, in 2021, any fanboy of Nintendo, I think, is probably, that also has any nostalgia for Nintendo 64 games, has probably had enough poor treatment from Nintendo to think, oh, I would have a better experience just emulating this, and I should just emulate it. There is a real argument, too, since almost, I would say at least 80% of anybody who is interested in playing a Nintendo 64 game has previously owned those Nintendo 64 games. So, in a real world, if you owned the game in the real concept of owning it, you would be able to completely legally and should be encouraged to and allowed to run an emulator to play those old Nintendo 64 cartridges, or dump it to a ROM and run the ROMs that way.
I bring unto you serenity.
And I don't think there's much of a difference really if you downloaded the ROM after you'd already purchased it. The idea that we would let corporations create this weird system where you have to constantly re-buy things is ridiculous. Non-perishable, non-consumable items. Like, imagine if you went to buy a book or a Bible even, and every year they made you re-up the license to read the Bible that you had already purchased. That shouldn't fly, but I fear we might have a future very much where that is the case. Or they made the Bible biodegradable, so the page faded over the course of a year.
And so our pact is forged.
Yeah, we should really go back 2,000 years and look at the types of things that people were making and selling. And they were making clothing and jewelry and tablets and bronze items, swords, spears, shields, things that once you purchase once may be in a family for generations. Not the ridiculously commoditized garbage that is available for sale nowadays that is designed to break, designed to fail, designed to be replaced, or require a replacement extremely early. But yeah, I think once again just ranting. But yeah, well, I think society really needs to think about the idea that you may be spending a dime a week less than 200 years ago in a store to get a week's worth of foods and groceries. That things were that cheap and things lasted that much, and there was such a few such a small variety of things that people actually could purchase or would purchase
100% string and
compared to the consumeristic system we've created now, where there's millions of things and millions of different varieties of things to purchase. which ironically, I think that's going to transition fairly nicely into this DC article from Video Game Chronicles. Here's the first in-game look at Arkham Dev's Suicide Squad. Kill the Justice League is set for release in 2022. Justice League is apparently taken over by Brainiac or somebody, and so the Suicide Squad is supposed to kill them all. And it does feel like it is very much just trying to do Guardians of the Galaxy and rip off Guardians of the Galaxy as a game, but it's going to be late to the party for that.
A precious life deserves a precious Lord Jules.
Meanwhile, the characters being depicted here are not the James Gunn Suicide Squad characters, but the Suicide Squad characters you saw in the first Suicide Squad movie, which really goes to show the difference between greenlighting a video game and greenlighting a movie is that it takes a lot longer to make a movie. Like, so this all looks nice, but all of this is pretty much just cutscene stuff too. So I have no idea what kind of gameplay this actually is. Like, it in a lot of ways just looks like it's potentially a Telltale game.
And 0%
Hostile life form detected.
This'll be over quick.
twirl and out.
Terminating hostile life form.
So much for that axe.
Do that.
Verifying access.
Do that.
I wasn't good enough.
Hold still.
But yeah, I really have no idea what kind of game it really is. And they definitely aren't showing you what kind of game it is supposed to be. Like, the irony is you see all those cutscenes and all that depiction, and it could be a turn-based RPG, it could be a placement turn-based RPG, it could be a card game, it could be a Telltale game, it could be something just completely ridiculous. It says it will be playable solo or in 2-player co-op. But no, they're talking about Gotham Knights. So, yeah, Gotham Knights is another announcement that happened. That was pretty much the two games they talked about in the DC fandom, and I don't feel like they really announced anything movie-wise or otherwise that was particularly that interesting to me. I just don't know what you really could do with DC in general to, like, you reboot things, and I would just complain about them once again rebooting things. You don't reboot things, and I complain that it's boring. They are effectively in a lose-lose scenario. With me, DC is.
My dreams soar higher than ever. Perfect place to land.
I'll see you in
There aren't really even any interesting characters in the DC universe. So what I would kind of want to see is them just focus on either DC characters that are very unrecognizable or brand new, or characters that really aren't from the DC universe. In particular, the Watchmen. If they were going to do a new Watchmen movie, that might be interesting. But they probably wouldn't do that. Or the Sandman. But Netflix is doing a Sandman TV series, and they just put out a trailer for that. Although, didn't show that off at the DC fandom. So, yeah. And I think there might be a very good argument to say that DC and Warner Brothers focus so heavily on the Harry Potter series in a decade previous that now they are trapped in a hole that they dug for themselves because they don't have
Under control.
a consistent strategy. They went all in against Harry Potter. Harry Potter existed and succeeded for as long as it did succeed, but then it ended and they had no backup plan. They were expecting Fantastic Beasts to succeed, and it didn't really.
So our pact is forged.
Video Game Chronicles has the Gotham Knights latest trailer focusing on the Penguin and the Court of Owls. Yeah, DC still talking about the Court of Owls, so that's been like the most successful new addition to Batman in a long time.
Running is always an option.
But the problem you run into here with this is this: if you know the Court of Owls somewhat well, you know that opens up yet another way in which Batman gets brought back to life, either as a good guy or a bad guy, because the Court of Owls have these talons, as they're called, that fight for them, that are resurrected victims of the Court of Owls. And so yeah, this whole trailer seems to show all of the people being trapped in the labyrinth of the Court of Owls, which is being depicted a little bit more complicated here than how it was in its first appearance in comics. But see, there's a Talon. So it's really questionable how much of this game, storyline wise, takes place in the Court of Owls. And that almost certainly was Batman being resurrected as a Talon. And that'll probably bring Batman back alive. I don't know if that fixes longer running issues.
What adorable, ephemeral lives.
Certainly. Because if you're having a 4-player, potentially co-op game in the Gotham Knights series, and you're trying to make something that is very much like the Arkham Asylum series, that's going to be awkward and weird. Certainly, there's going to just be a lot of Riddler puzzles to collect. And I kind of feel like you're just going to have to bring back Batman, or tease bringing back Batman at the end of 1 or 2 games if you're going to get a trilogy out of it, and then bring him back. But then you're also moving the narrative and the story forward so much. And I would say that's probably the failure of the Arkham series in general, is that they were willing to move the story forward way too much. The first Arkham Asylum game makes the Joker this huge monster, which nobody liked, and they have to undo it. In their effort to undo it, they make Joker effectively dying in the second game. And he is straight up dead in the third game. So you've killed the Joker in 1.5 games, really, instead of using him as your best character. So now you introduce the Court of Owls and the idea of talons that can resurrect people. You bring back the Joker, you bring back Batman, you try to move the story forward. I guess that kind of works. But I don't know if that works greatly as a concept. And these other characters, I just don't think can replace Batman. Three Robins and a Batgirl does not equal one Batman. Pretty much nothing equals a Batman. They I don't know what you can do with them. You basically have to take them out of Gotham, put them in their own different world with their own different enemies, and if the comic books had succeeded at doing that, then maybe then the Robins and Red Hood and all of that, Dick Grayson, Batgirl, all of them had any of their comic book runs when they were separated away from Batman succeeded to the point where they had their own rogues gallery and their own areas that they patrolled, it would definitely be a bigger story, different story. It's also worth pointing out that Gotham Knights must not really be canonically actually connected to the Arkham series, because the Penguin here looks nothing like the Penguin in Arkham City where he's shown. The Penguin in Arkham City has a broken glass bottle, monocle. This guy's not wearing a monocle unless he just took it off, so he'll hit play. He's wearing a monocle in the other eye, and it's just a regular monocle. And he had some weird voice box in Arkham City. That's just not there. So, it's very possible that the Batman in Gotham Knights is dead for a completely different reason. Something particularly lame could be said where he is actually not really dead at all. They're writing this as the death of Bruce Wayne, so maybe they're killing off Bruce Wayne's persona but keeping Batman alive. That would probably be the best way to twist it, but then you have a problem where you have a 4-playable character in a game and nobody gets to play as Batman, or one person gets to fight to play as Batman and everybody else has to play as the lesser character. It would almost make more sense if this was set in the future, kind of like Batman Beyond, and Bruce Wayne, Batman, has broken his leg or something, or just gotten old and he can no longer put on the suit and be Batman. So he is instead sending out the next generation on missions. That might work a lot better, I guess. But I don't know if I particularly trust that.
This'll be over quick.
Let's see, moving on though. I'm kind of rambling and I don't want to waste extra time. Video Game Chronicles says that a company selling black PlayStation 5 faceplates has stopped after legal threat by Sony. D. Brown says, quote, F Sony as it pulls its popular dark plates from sale. Wasn't the whole idea of these plates that and the way the PlayStation 5 was designed was so that people could manufacture and sell these weird plates? Let's see. Yeah, and they got a letter from Sony claiming a lawsuit that they'd sue them. I got a cease and desist, which for the most part you should probably just heed a cease and desist, but I wouldn't be surprised if you're a company that it wouldn't be too terrible to just ignore them. Like most lawyer letters, or they carry no weight. and only a threat that somebody would sue you, which the threat that somebody would sue you always exists, regardless of what the situation is.
Useless puppets get no love.
Begin.
I like who I am now. Pretty
Darn
handy
it.
after all. Gonna have to fix myself up.
Stay away from me.
Let's see.
I've got this under control.
I didn't play that quite. Apparently, D-Brand had previously challenged to sue, or challenged Sony to try and sue us.
I loved her. She was everything to me.
I don't see the real reasons, though. Though, yeah,
Running is always an option.
like the D-Brand faceplates. Let's see, is there a link to see them? These dark plates. Yeah, that's like looking at this, as long as it doesn't have their logo on it, I don't see what you could sue them for. I mean, seems ridiculous. Yeah, there's, as long as there's not a logo on there or a trademark on there, you're making a general shape, and it's not like a general shape can be copyrighted or trademarked. Like, D-Brand should take them to court. They probably just don't have the money for it. I don't know if this isn't the case where D-Brand told Sony to try and sue them first because they knew they were going to run out of funding to actually produce products. Like, now would be kind of the perfect time. When did this threat in this article actually come out? That would be kind of the perfect time to potentially sell as much as you can, and then stop selling things because of product shortage and shipping cost increases.
You've no idea how pitiful and wretched I feel.
There was a high-profile case in the UK when one company saw one company cancel its plans to create custom PlayStation 5 faceplates. Well, yeah, so Sony's pissing off Japanese people in general. Sony's are pissing off UK people, and now they seem to have pissed off Canadian people. Is there a single nationality of people that Sony isn't actively trying to piss off?
Together forever.
Like that's just dumb. Why did you even build your console so awkwardly and yet still capable of having faceplates on it if you were going to try and stop people from making faceplates? Imagine if Xbox Series X tried to stop people from selling wraps or faceplates for that. Like, it would be impossible to stop it being just a big square. Moving on, Video Game Chronicle says Ubisoft has seemingly leaked the Rainbow Six Extraction release date sometime in January 20th, 2022 seems to be the date. I don't think too many people are particularly interested in Rainbow Six Extraction, but whatever. Kingdom Hearts Switch native ports are undecided, says the producer, according to Video Game Chronicles. Which, yeah, I think undecided means no, pretty much in this case. A native port might happen if Kingdom Hearts sold particularly well and they saw some extra need to make native ports, like, it's not only that would it have to sell well on the Switch, it would have to sell well on the Switch, and then they would have to have people specifically telling Square Enix they wanted a native port so that they didn't have to stream the cloud version of the game.
Don't underestimate me.
Which I assume that's what they mean by a cloud game in Nintendo Switch terms. Is that it is streaming all of the frames as you're playing, and not just that it's a downloadable game. That'd be weird to call something a cloud game, and it really was just a downloadable game.
My beloved mother.
100% string and 0% fluff.
Alright, well, I guess you play this.
A spin and a twirl and out. There's our puppet again.
I guess, actually, there was no reason to play this, other than just kill things. Yeah, but I would heavily suspect we will never see a native port, because it probably just would run like garbage. Video Game Chronicles has an article. FIFA says it's open to working with other developers as EA relationship fractures. The football gaming giant appears to challenge EA in a new statement. It does seem like there is a lot of very public fighting going on between FIFA. A big part of that, I believe I heard, was that FIFA wanted either $1 million or $1 billion. I think it was $1 billion just to put FIFA on the front of the box. And then you would have to negotiate name and likeness rights for each team and for each person individually and separate from that. Which I think long-standing assumption would be that FIFA is a fairly corrupt organization that is trying to grab as much money as possible. EA also being in the same kind. So you've got two very greedy corporations in the middle of a probable global recession, or the beginnings of a probable global recession, trying to screw the other one over as much as possible before the bubble bursts. Let's see. Video Game Chronicle says the PlayStation 5 previously fixed PlayStation 4 disc installation bug is seemingly back. Users report the bug is back after a recent system update, which I don't even recall there being a bug. Players who insert disc versions of games and choose the PlayStation 5 upgrade have had the PlayStation 4s attempted to install on their console unprompted. Titles affected include No Man's Skies, the recently released Death Stranding Director's Cut Neo. While it doesn't stop the players from using the PS5 version, it will take up storage space on the console, which the players have to manually delete. And I wouldn't be surprised if it constantly tries to reinstall the PlayStation 4 version. Yeah, that sounds like that sucks. Yeah. Games are just getting bigger and bigger. You really don't have space to waste. And we are going to have to at some point address that issue and hope that they can start to make smaller, more compact games instead of just, or bigger hard drives, whichever happens first. Alright, well, so when we do this, this gives us just that. So that was a waste. At the end this opponent's turn, destroy this follower. Evolve an unevolved character. We'll see if this works, but I don't think it is going to work. Nope. Still gonna die at the end of the turn.
Watch as I wind and wind.
Yeah, at the end of the opponent's turn, he'll die. Let's see. Xbox's Compulsion Games is working on a third-person single-player game. Studio behind We Happy Few has doubled in size. I'm shocked with this announcement for a few reasons. A, I didn't know that Compulsion Games was acquired by Xbox. Last I had heard, they were trying to be an independent company using Gearbox Publishing to publish We Happy Few. And I'm also shocked that they're being allowed to make any new game, considering how We Happy Few really was poorly received. And see, it would be insane to make a new game that looked anything like We Happy Few, so they probably have to just start over from scratch and tell a completely different type of story. Third-person narrative single-player game. Is it going to be a survival resource game, kind of Minecraft clone? Because that's kind of what they were trying to do with We Happy Few, and people did not want that, and frankly, the
words escaped me.
interest in the game led them by the nose to make a game that was very different from what they were thinking of making, and I think maybe We Happy Few would have been a better game had they just stuck to their guns and made the game they were planning on making from day one, because you can't really change a horse in midstream in game development and expect it to succeed. Well, what you would have had to do, and there have been stories certainly of people finding a really fun gameplay mechanic halfway through the process of developing a game. At that point, though, you have to pretty much abandon everything you've worked on up until that point and delay the game and make a new game. Completely restart focusing around that new concept.
I've got this under control.
Begin.
I like who I am now. Pretty handy
And
after
attack
all.
Perfect place
here.
to land.
Pretty handy
Here.
after all.
Rush. Guess we'll play this one in the turn. There was this interview here where
Down to the woods.
with Nyla Hodjas. He has a quote here. I think we gave ourselves a little time to learn. It's our first game with Microsoft and we're learning a lot. Compulsion was acquired by Microsoft in 2018 as part of the mass acquisition that included Ninja Theory, Playground Games, and Undead Labs. And I guess each of these companies I didn't really realize Microsoft owned, and I'm not sure they've really announced any new games. In a lot of ways, these acquisitions aren't likely to have a new game out anytime soon. Like, maybe whatever the Xbox Series X2, when that comes out, we'll see a new game from Ninja Theory, Playground Games, and Undead Labs, and Compulsion Games. That would be my guess, is that they're gonna try to win big in the next expansion, and maybe establish something similar to a TikTok cycle, where there will be some enhanced versions of consoles, and then there will be all new consoles that are noticeably different. probably just want to play this.
Terminating hostile life form.
Sleep.
I like who I am now.
Oh, I suppose I should mention that because Destiny Child, the mobile game I play,
Pretty handy after
because it was delayed in its expansion for several days, they've done something where you're getting like more experience for one of the expansion pass quicker. So like there's a special, what should be a month long, what they call Devil Pass, and it's really only gonna last 4 or 5 days, and you're getting enough experience to get through it all in 1 or 2 days. And they're doing
That's enough flight for one day.
a special event right now where they're giving you the top tier best style of characters to start. So now would be the perfect time to play Destiny Child if you've never played it before. But there also was some statistics on Reddit that were posted as far as Destiny Child Global, r/Destiny Child Global, and there's like 1,500 people that venture and post on that Reddit forum. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's somewhere between 10 and 100,000 people at most playing Destiny Child Global. But also maybe a lot of non-native English speakers are playing it, and thus they're just not going to the unofficial subreddit on Reddit like I am. Leftmost card. Let's see, let's do this. Hit this. And then do this. Hit this. Then do this. And hit this.
The miasma pervades all.
Do this.
And relax.
This is the leftmost card. So we'll put it on the field.
Knowledge fulfills my existence.
Enemy identified.
And then attack.
You'll never catch me.
Yeah, I can't imagine a third-person narrative single-player game. I don't imagine it to be very long, to say the least, from Compulsion games. I imagine it probably will be something that's much closer to a Telltale game, if anything. Which, ironically, is not the case, apparently, for Guardians of the Galaxy, which is going to require 150 gigabytes of space, according to Video Game Chronicles. This is the system requirements from Square Enix, showing it taking up more space than Microsoft Flight Simulator. Which I really have to question what in the world is going on there. Like, yes, we've seen trailers where it definitely looks like it's mostly cutscenes happening, but is there just a massive amount of open world wandering around survival elements too? Maybe. That really redefines what I thought this game was going to be. And yeah, this does look like you are doing something different from what I expected.
Mankind's hatred is a curse.
End their suffering.
So yeah,
Hey, let's play.
this is definitely looks like more of a video game. Yeah, this feels like a Final Fantasy game, really. Is this the trick? Is Square Enix trying to use Marvel to put in Final Fantasy gameplay mechanics and bring it to the Western world? They might very well be trying to do that. Yeah. Yeah, I think Square Enix is trying to Trojan horse Final Fantasy into the Western world with Guardians of the Galaxy. And in a funny way, I think that works. I don't think you just... I think that very well may end up succeeding way more than it has any right to.
You'll never catch me.
The truth will cut you down. Truth and lies. Everything was a
Let us
lie.
learn together.
You broke the curse?
Let's see. Put a puppet here. True strike this guy
Will cut you down.
in the turn. It would be kind of weird if we have a Final Fantasy style game in the form of a Marvel property like Guardians of the Galaxy, because then the desire would be to just have like an Avengers Final Fantasy style game next, and just every year come out with a new Final Fantasy type game, or every couple of years, and they'd be so long. I think Square Enix may definitely be missing the mark on who the target audience is for a Marvel style game. And the previous Marvel Avenger games was very grindy and repetitive too, so there's a lot of room for rejection to potentially happen there also. I wouldn't be super surprised if they are trying to make a Final Fantasy style game with Marvel Avenger characters that people play it for a few hours and then never have anything positive to say about it.
All of you.
Hostile life form detected.
Everything was a lie.
I didn't need to give that Bane.
Hostile life form.
You break the curse?
Desperately need puppets in my hands, but whatever. Actually, I think I win next turn. Let's see, here we have a game on Steam, Into the Metaverse Theme Ride Experience. Looks like nothing. Free VR game, English only. Yeah, definitely a free VR game. Is not anything that looks like it would be quality. You pretty much have to charge for a VR game. Here we have a game called Unit Down, which looks like garbage. We're seeing some really bad games today. $4.99 English, allegedly full audio. Here we have an Asian game that says Flak. Is that a flak cannon? I think it is. Yeah. Looks like a very low effort Chinese game. $4.79 in VR, English and Chinese. You don't see a lot of VR capable Chinese games, regardless of quality.
Let's play. Now's a chance for a grand slam.
Will I get enough damage playing two of these? I think I might. As long as this doesn't heal too much, or they don't find some way to do 13 damage to me. Alright, let's do this. Hit this.
And see that you carry out your mission.
And we can't evolve anything.
And see that you carry out your mission.
Okay. Does this have storm? Yes. So 4, 5, 4 victory. An actual proper victory.
Sleep enveloped in serenity.
That's always nice to get those. Let's see, next we have a game called Polymemory Furries, which looks just like a memory game with, I guess, furry animals. Polygon furry animals. $1.19, allegedly full audio in every language, allegedly supporting every language. That's going to be a no. Here we have Pix Girls, which looks like it's just paint by number cleavage shots of characters. Pictocross. Maybe. I don't even think it's Pictocross. I think it's just paint by number, yeah. 87 cents English only. That's going to obviously be a no. So next game is Clit, CLT, and it is described as an abstract Rorschach sex themed tarot card game. So I assume this is a reference to the clitoris. This is weird, to say the least. But it's different. Like, just being able to discuss anatomy is something that most people are too shy or shunned by to actually do. So I'd almost want to play this game just so I could go on a rant. The weird thing though is with each of these, let's not show the video just in case there's something here. Each of these, I guess, Rorschach in the sense that they've been mirrored images and they look like ink blots. I'm not really seeing a lot that screams to me like a clitoral hood or a clitoris. I mean, like in a just vulva genital shape. You could certainly say they're close to that. Very yonic is the female equivalent of the word phallic. But yeah, looking at all these images, these look like more like people than anatomy, and this is a picture of a finger. Yep. So maybe I just don't have the disposition to see everything from sexual perspectives, which would be frankly shocking to me, but I just don't see it. Like, weird. You would think it would be more. And it's funny, they're comparing it to Honey Pop and The Witness, two very different games. English only. Art House Tarot game. There is a problem, I think, generally. I'm going to put this on the follow list and see what people have to say. If a Rorschach test is designed so that you see something sexual in every single of the ink blots, it's not a particularly fair Rorschach test at that point. You're not gaining an insight as to what's on the subconscious mind or conscious mind of a patient more than you are actively trying to bring up a subject or thought in the mind of a patient, which at a certain point that's brainwashing and that's bad therapy. Like, if you are intentionally or unintentionally implanting ideas into a patient, you're not helping the patient.
Hey, let's play.
Moving on,
Play.
we have a game called Idle Pins.
Hey, let's
which looks like nothing of interest. It's rated mostly positive. Single player in-app purchases. English only. Some kind of incremental game. I can't even really tell what it is though. Its screenshots are very uninformative to me. Let's see. Play this. Play one of these.
This'll be over quick. Hold
Attack
still.
there, attack there.
Useless puppets give me love.
Puppet and an enhanced puppet into your hand.
Begin.
I think that's probably a good move to do that
I like who I am now.
now. Next we have a game that's in Asian letters, Honor of the Night King, which looks like it's a hack and slash fighting large groups of people. They're claiming it's a Souls-like by the tags. I don't think there's really a game here though. It looks like it's all taking place in one arena. It looks like there's one enemy, one hero, and that's it. Basically a vertical slice or tech demo of a game. $2.09, Chinese only. Yeah, we have a game called Quanto Wars, which looks like garbage.
Sleep enveloped in
Yep,
serenity.
nothing there of interest. $3.99, English only. Here we have a game called Invert, which just looks like a simplistic, minimalistic single-screen puzzle game of no interest. 69 cents, English, Spain, Spanish, Chinese, Portuguese, Brazil, and Russian. Here we have a game called Hidden Town, which, what kind of game is it? Apparently it's a hidden object game. Yeah. Watching the video, you move around this town looking for hidden objects. And that's it. And see, there is definitely a danger here if we're all of a sudden going to start having hidden object games come out that look nothing like the previous generation of hidden object games. At the end of the day, though, I think it'll probably be fairly easy to start to recognize telltale marks of somebody making a hidden object game and then making it look completely different like this. This is definitely still going to be a no. Next we have Guardians of Greenheart, which looks like one of these Japanese RPG maker games with of no effort. Yep, nothing of interest there. $6.29, English only.
I bring unto you.
Here we have a game called Bigger Trucks,
Is fighting and despair all
which
you
looks
know?
like nothing. 74 cents, English only. Here we have a game called In One Lives, or No One Lives. In One L, I guess. No One Lives. It's an asset flip. They're saying it's an on-rail shooter, but I would say it looks more like it's trying to be a survival game or a even battle royale. Definitely just looks like an asset flip game though. $31.99, third-party EULA, English, allegedly full audio. That is a massive price. I would have to think long and hard. When was the last time I saw a game that was an asset flip game, or looked like an asset flip game, ask for anything close to that price? Nearly almost all low effort games are going for maybe $9.99 at most.
100% string and 0% fluff.
Video Game Chronicles has an article here. The legendary Namco pixel artist Hiroshi Mr. Dotman Ono has died. He was responsible for the graphic design and pixel art in countless classic Namco games. I imagine he probably did not work on anything lately, because this kind of pixel art kind of quickly got replaced with 16-bit graphics and then higher level graphics above that.
What fine threads you have.
64 is not particularly old for a Japanese person to die, but with the pandemic, who knows what was the cause. Also, the Japanese drink a lot, so, but that tends not to really kill them as much as you might think it would.
0% strength and 0% fluff.
This will be over quick.
Spin in a twirl. There's our
Okay,
puppy,
do
there's
I
our
want to
puppy
play
game.
3? I think I do. 1, 2, 3. Attack.
No!
Let's see. Says he passed away on October 16th after a long illness. He joined Namco in 1979 and he stayed until 2013, long after it had merged with Bandai. Most of Namco's classic arcades were influenced by Ono in some way. He was involved in cabinet and marquee design for Pac-Man and created numerous other logos and pieces of cabinet art for other Namco games. Yeah, and the side art for a cabinet might be more interesting than the art done actually on screen. But I don't think he probably was the side art artist in many games. Wonder if this is an actual, like, Japanese patent here. Probably isn't. This was probably an interview. There's too much color for this to literally be a patent form and not enough formulaic things. Yeah, it says it's an article from a Japanese magazine. How do you read this magazine? Like, I get this, right from left, right to left, going downward, starting at the top of the page. I get all of that.
This will be over quick.
Spin in a twirl. There's our puppy. Watch as I wind and watch as I wind and wind.
That's it. Yeah. So you would start here, and you would read here, but then you get to this, and you're looking at the pictures, and then what? Do you read downward like this? I guess you do, but then these numbers don't feel right. They're kind of out of line.
Blessings upon you.
I guess you read down that way. Then I guess you read down this way, and then look at the pictures this way. But then this headline here, you've got to be reading this the other way, don't you? You're either reading it this way, or you're reading it this way on the headline. Kind of feels like the entirety of the magazine and the way they write seems to swap around in these formats. And then again, I guess maybe you read it up this way, but it sure doesn't feel like they've got this blocked in that format that you would be reading downward. Again, this doesn't make sense. Seems like they're quite the switch hitters as far as writing their own language. This is the only one that feels like it actually is read this way. And then when they start hitting smaller text, it seems like it swaps out from probably a more formal Japanese into the more simplified Japanese, and you start reading it the other way. That'd be my guess. I'm definitely not
Hold still.
versed or educated at all in how you would read or write Japanese. I barely understand a few words speaking it or hearing it. Unfortunately, the actual reason for his death just says long illness, which I wouldn't be surprised if it's just like general cancer type things.
Look at me all you like. I don't mind.
Moving on, Video Game Chronicles also has an article. Hideo Kojima is releasing a range of designer glasses, which I think just once again confirms that Hideo Kojima is too wild of an artist to be in charge of a business or to be in charge of anything. The fact that he's distracting himself and partnering with a company, I think it was a French designer, Jean-Francois Ray, to create a range of offbeat glasses. Yeah, and in all fairness, this may very well have just been a single conversation that he had, and it wasn't a big deal for him to say, sure, I'll let you use my name and likeness to sell a range of weird glasses. But it seems like Hideo Kojima is doing almost the exact opposite of what most Japanese game programmers would be doing, or game programmers in general, which is spending 40 to 60 hours a week programming your game and making it the best it could be, and overworking yourself. Prismarine Featherfolk, I assume, is the one that keeps saying, look at me all you like.
What fine threads you have.
Here.
This'll be over quick.
Hostile life form detected. Terminating hostile life form. Heavy impact sustained.
Verifying access.
1, 2, 3, 4.
See you all next festival.
Begin.
It's pouring.
Let's see. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Sound X World, which just looks like an asset flip of an arcade. Exclusive music, art, entertainment events. Yep. We saw a game like this before. I don't know why people think that they can just create a bar or event venue in a virtual reality and that would actually work. Regardless of people being desperate to go out to places due to the pandemic, I don't think somebody's gonna buy something like this for $5.99. It's English only. It's not supporting VR also, which is strange to say the least.
The unknown lies beyond the clouds.
Do this.
Sleep.
It's pouring.
I think we'll just play that. Next, we have a game on Steam called Hidden Water, which looks like it's just a platformer or a fish simulator where you swim around. Either way, doesn't look good. Apparently, it's a hidden objects game. Wow. They are getting crazy with the hidden object games. $5.99, whole bunch of languages allegedly supported. That's gonna be a no. Here we have a game called Tower Attack, which looks like it's a tower defense game with some cutesy art. That being said, it's not that cutesy and it's not that visually polished when you look at the repetitive trees and the background and the grass. It's $1.99, English only. That's going to be a no. Do we have enough for this to work? No. Play it anyways.
I hold purgation in my hand
Seen
once
this
more.
coming.
Accept harmony.
My dreams will become reality.
If you have at least 8 play points, game +1, +1, +0. I didn't gain it. Alright.
What adorable, ephemeral lines.
So, I should have not evolved it, obviously. And I kind of knew that. I don't see any way I win here, though.
Let us pierce the twilight flank here.
Power of mortality.
The pressure is really off with Shadowverse at this point. Yes, I could and am trying to get victories, but even if I didn't get but just one more victory, I would be fairly satisfied. And getting 2 or 3 gets all of the daily quests done. There's nothing else that really needs to be done. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Limitless Hunger, which looks like nothing. $3.94, English full audio. Here we have a game called Trouble Hunter Chronicles: The Stolen Creed,
I bring unto you
which
serenity.
I put
looks
my
like
all
it's a
into every
point-and-click
shot.
adventure game, although it feels kind of more like it's a little rough in its animation. There's not people. It doesn't look like it's probably got voice acting. It feels more like a hidden object game, pretending to be an adventure game, than a point-and-click adventure. But I'll give it a chance. $19.99 is definitely asking a lot, though. English, allegedly full audio. I don't know if I believe that. Broken Sword 1 is having its 25th anniversary today. Also, I was going to mention that. And Return of Obra Dinn. Boy, when you look at Return of Obra Dinn and how well they decorated the ship of Obra Dinn, and it's just one ship, and you spend at least 30 to 60 hours, I would say. Oh, well, I actually don't have to say, do I? I spent 47 hours at least with the game running, so at least 20 to 30 hours of actual gameplay, I think, in Obra Dinn. That ship is so much better designed than the Disney Lego Pirates ships. There is just nothing on the lower decks. There's no items, there's no Lego things to interact with. It's not completely empty, but it definitely feels way more empty than it should be. Let's see. Just go ahead and play this.
I think you owe me an apology.
Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Cubes of Death, which obviously is nothing of interest. $10.19, English, allegedly full audio, third-party EULA. And we are getting some really high-priced games today. Alright, enhanced puppet. Oh, wait. Ancient artifact. I think you do this.
Puppets get no love.
And then wait. Yeah. Next, we have a game on Steam called Can You Escape?
Let's play.
Which looks like nothing.
Let's
It's $2.69, English only. Here we have a game
Let's
called
get this
Emmy and the
started.
Super Boba, which doesn't look like anything. I haven't even had to really look
Let's get this started.
at videos for any of these games because they're just so blatantly bad today. Not that they're particularly good any day. This looks like this is just a platforming game of no real polish. $12.99 English only. That's gonna be a no. Okay. If I play this,
100% straight, and a spin and a twirl, and out. There's our puppet
Can we-
again.
save ourselves here. Not really. You do this.
How foolish.
You do this. You discard this.
Oh, guinea pigs, where are you?
You evolve this.
Begin.
Ah, the design fault lies with you. I am such
Here.
a genius.
And here. Here we have a game called Mr. Hop's Manor Escape, which looks like it is a kind of poorly animated horror game chase sequence.
Why is it the
Says it's a puzzle side scroller. I imagine you just have to wander around looking for objects to try and escape. Kind of feels like it's the idea of this little girl imagining she's being chased by
Such a good guinea pig.
monsters. But it's pretty creepy. Arguably, this is more of a game than the Five Nights at Freddy's series, so had this come first, it might have succeeded. And I will say that this isn't just, it doesn't look like just your standard RPG Maker game. It looks a little bit more zoomed in, a little bit more visually polished. All that being said, it still looks like nothing that I would ever be interested in. $3.99 English full audio. Apparently no controller support or partial controller support. Several languages claimed to be supported. Yeah, I don't know what you would have to do to make me interested in that type of game. You'd have to probably put a like Resident Evil inventory system there. You'd have to have several discrete sections and areas. You'd have to have locks on doors and puzzles you have to solve. You'd have to have more of a variety, I would say, on the enemies you would encounter. Gamatsu says the days before launches June 22nd for PC and adds a PS5 and Xbox Series versions. Apparently it's a survival massive multiplayer online game. I have not heard of this. Or if I have heard of it, I don't remember it.
I'm going on ahead.
Yeah, it looks like it's a post-apocalyptic
This one's with
game.
everything I've got.
And
Bravo, like the
it kind of feels like an asset flip game. There's just like a lot of very similar looking people wandering around. And then the actual game is fairly dark, but that seems right for a zombie apocalypse experience. This would be weird if this somehow was the new Dead Rising and it was way better than a Dead Rising game. I mean, this does look visually polished and pretty. But I don't know. Does this somehow make a survival game make sense? That's the question. I mean, you've got tanks, you've got guns, you're going around to multiple locations. It seems like it's in a zombie apocalypse, but it's a very well managed and maintained zombie apocalypse.
Ephemeral lives.
Like it, like after the initial impact of a zombie apocalypse, the humanity has a chance of regaining control, or at least maintaining a reasonable lifestyle. It's tagged as a massively multiplayer online game. That would be the main problem with this. As an idea, otherwise it looks very interesting. Who's making it? That's the question. Yeah, I've never heard of this company or this developer. Boy, does this look like a real game. It's not the days before, it's the day before. MMO survival game. Says it has single player. Can you really play it in single player?
Hear the roar of my 9 flames.
We'll just have to wait and see when it comes out. Here, you definitely have a game here where that could come out of nowhere. I don't know though. Where's the MMO part of that? Like, yeah, it seems like you're violating an idea of a zombie game and a post-apocalyptic game to play as an MMO. Like, you're potentially making a better version of something like Fallout 76, where people can play together, but that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Terminating hostile life form.
And inevitably, if it is an MMO, you're gonna have people just fighting against each other.
Hostile life form detected.
That was not the one to play, I guess, but whatever.
Terminating hostile heavy impact sustained.
Well, I guess it doesn't matter what I put on the field.
And lies.
Let's see. Gamatsu has this 4 versus 1 physics-based prop hunt survival horror game called Prop Night.
And ravaged it.
It's funny that these games are coming out with basically no fanfare. Like, I guess there's just not any
Let's play.
Steam Direct or Xbox or Nintendo Direct or anything like that that wanted to highlight some of these games, or these games are going to come out in just awkward times. Like, see, this is coming out on Halloween. You would have thought they would have promoted this for at least 6 weeks, not a couple of weeks. At the end of the day, this really does just look like it's probably an asset flip game, trying to look like a real game. Left. Give me 2 of those. And then kill this.
Cut you down.
Play this.
Terminating
Take that out.
life form.
It's all.
Verifying access.
Heal. Evolve. I shouldn't have evolved.
Is that all you have to show for Let us learn together. Let us learn together.
Everything was a lie.
Alright. 2 more turns. And I can win in 1.
Hear the roar of my 9 flames.
Let's see. Gamatsu says Aqua Plus launches a countdown website that ends October 26th. So This is from the
Part of the
Utarono
Mortality.
series publisher Aqua Plus, which I would have to think about what Utarono is. Looks like it is a JRPG game. And let's see, this was July 18th, 2021 when this last announcement was talked about. It was supposed to come out in Japan on July 22nd, so I wouldn't be surprised if they are about to announce a new game either for Japan or a port of the old games to the West. Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 DLC character Caulifla, I suppose that's how you pronounce that, Caulifla. Super Saiyan 2 has a debut trailer. I've seen this character. I don't know anything about her, though. I've as far as Dragon Ball Z, that's about as far as I go. So I can tell you that that's Trunks, but I have no idea who this character is. I think I do own Dragon Ball Fighter Z. I don't think I own Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. And I probably would do better if I did own Xenoverse 2 and learn the story through playing a video game, which would help me spend less time, certainly, than actually watching the anime. I kind of assume that she is another character from the future, that is changing the past, if I was to guess. I imagine that's what happens in Dragon Ball a lot nowadays, is people change the past and constantly show up from the future.
I admit defeat.
There is a weird thing with Dragon Ball Z at this point, where there was a point where Westerners took Dragon Ball Z in particular, serious. I'm not sure there ever was a point you were supposed to take Dragon Ball Z serious, though. So now I think people enjoy it for the dumb fun that it was always supposed to be. I think most people should be wise to enjoy it that way, but yeah, I think that people thought it was Dragon Ball Z, and the way it was translated and the way the story was told in English in particular, left people with the idea that it was a serious narrative experience and all about action and drama, when it really never was that. Like, the characters' names were all supposed to be puns and gags, and the fighting and the action was supposed to be cool, certainly, but like when you have a character like Mr. Satan running around and you're calling him Satan, clearly the manga artist was not expecting people to take it seriously. And Dragon Ball was straight up for kids. It was designed for little kids. Dragon Ball Z for edgy teenagers and preteens.
100% strength and 0%.
Let's see. Moving on. Gamatsu has a Knives Out Extreme debut trailer and screenshots, which there's that movie Knives Out, and I assume that this has nothing to do with that. I feel like there was a game called Knives Out that was announced a long time ago, so I don't know if this is supposed to be the same or not. And clearly this was in the middle of this whole PlayStation presentation, so yeah. 112 to 113 for the trailer. Alright, 112:42. Yeah, while that plays, we'll play over here.
where are you?
Here we go. Knife Out Extreme. These video hosting sites need to be better about being able to break up clips. And this is YouTube. YouTube is getting better about making clips, but it still has not yet rolled it out, and it's still possible to say don't make clips from my videos, which I don't know why anybody would say that. Yeah, this definitely looks like it's just a battle royale game. Definitely does not look like anything that would interest me. Yeah, we have a game on Steam called The Misty Tale, which looks like nothing. $1.99 English only, English and Russian. Here we have a game called Now Boarding, which looks like it might be a time management game. Action tycoon focused on running an airport. I kind of like the art style. It feels kind of French, or early 90s Nickelodeon art style. Yeah, I would say that Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, both of them being kind of the only places where cartoons in the West even get made nowadays, they have kind of failed miserably to introduce a variety of artists and different art styles, and everything tends to look pretty bad, if not exactly the same. Even if it is good, it looks the same. And yeah, in all fairness, anime mostly looks all the same too, and that's another problem. But I would have liked to see more varieties of styles. I'm gonna put this on the follow list. $8.99 English full audio. As an actual game, this may be not worth your time to play, but I want to see some reviews.
Sleep enveloped in serenity.
And I'm getting quick disconnects, so great. Free victories. If we get one more victory, we might as well just start playing on ranked. There's kind of nothing else to do. Here we have a game called Coin Treasures, which looks like it is a coin pusher game. It doesn't look terrible as a coin pusher game. The question is, do you really want to play a coin pusher game? The heads-up display is pretty bad. The items you get to push over look fine as a coin pusher item. I'm not sure if real-world coin pusher games have a way of refilling larger items once you've potentially pushed off all the bigger items. I would suspect somebody just has to go back and refill it with larger items later for the next day. Let's see. They want $5.99 English full audio, single player only. It's early access. It really has no reason to be early access, but you know what? I'll leave this. There was a cell phone version of a coin pusher that I played for a brief time. Hey, if I take this, will this be the leftmost card? No, it won't. But that's still not terrible, because you could just play a card.
I've got this under control.
That is kind of interesting that you can't shuffle the cards around, at least on the first draw. Yeah. I kind of quickly playing a coin pusher game on my cell phone, though found it to be repetitive and boring, and I imagine that would always be the case for any coin pusher game.
What fine threads you have.
Let's see.
You'll never catch me.
I might as well have played a puppet. Here we have a game called I Love Finding Pups, which Looks like it's a hidden object game with some other kind of gameplay mechanics, but mostly hidden object, I would say. $5.94, English only. And as much as I might like pictures of puppies, I'm not willing to pay money for them.
100% string and 0% fluff.
This'll be
Spin
over
in a
quick.
twirl and out. There's our puppy to game.
Do this.
And lies.
Do this. And do this.
Everything was a lie. Almost down.
Do this. Here's a game called Maze Monia, the ultimate 3D maze game, which looks like nothing. $4.79, English, allegedly full audio. That's going to be a no. Here we have a game called Castle Constructor, which says it's a tower defense game. Honestly, it feels a little different from a tower defense game, though. Seems like what you're really building is one tower in the center to defend yourself versus multiple towers, which does feel different. I don't know if it feels particularly different enough to justify. Yeah, it seems like you're kind of constructing using hex grid pieces. It's an interesting idea, certainly. $10.19 is asking a lot, but I'm being a pushover today, so I'm going to put it on the follow list. These graphics also look pretty bad. But yeah, I just think I'm trying to get more feedback and see more people's reviews before I immediately dismiss something. Let's see. Next we have Lauraville 10 Match 3 puzzle, which looks like a Match 3 puzzle game with some other simplistic mini games like Solitaire. $6.99, English only. That's gonna be a no. Here we have Star Blast Retro Wars, which looks like a Asteroids clone with a lot of neon colors. $4.49, that's going to be a no. Here we have a game called Find the Heart, which looks like a MS Paint level platforming game. Maybe there's some puzzling elements to this that make it a little bit different, but not different enough to get it to excuse this level of graphics. 89 cents, English and Chinese. Let's see. Play this. 2 damage. That won't do anything. 3 damage. Do this.
And lies.
Do this. Do this.
Everything was a lie.
A fitting end.
Play that. In the turn. Here we have a game called Explosia 3D, which looks like a low effort asset flip game. They literally have a screenshot of their Steam page in the video. That's kind of ridiculous. $26.99 English full audio. What's funny about that too is how much work it would take to do this video, because that means you would have had to have made your page first and then take a screenshot and put it in your video of a still screenshot or a dummy video, or even crazier, you would have to have made your page and put in a screenshot of a green screen or a blue screen to then green screen and blue screen the video on top of itself. And doing that gimmick for really no reason wouldn't make a lot of sense.
All of you.
This'll be over quick.
Do we want to try something else? Yeah, let's just end it there. Next, we have a game on Steam called Sunny Beach, which
Well, aren't you?
I think is probably a hidden object game in 3D. Or just a clicker game in general. You're just clicking things.
This is not a warning. Convention termination protocol.
Yeah, it seems like you're just kind of clicking things. Trying to get food particles to fall down. It's dark, it's rainy, seemingly for no reason. $2.39, English and Russian. I'm gonna say no to that. Here we have a game called Sailwind, which doesn't look like much. Yeah, sailing simulator maybe. $19.99, English only. That's too expensive for what it looks like it's offering. If it's offering something more, it's doing a bad job of telling me that.
A spin and a twirl and out.
Okay.
There's our puppy to get.
1, 2, 3, 4. Evolve this. Hit that. Play that, I guess. Next, we have a game on Steam called Table Gun, which looks like nothing of interest. $7.99, English only. Allegedly full audio. Here we have a game called The Remainder Act 2, so we'll have to look and see if The Remainder Act 1, Remainder Complete Edition apparently is on its way. Act 1, The Remainder. The Remainder Act 1 is on my following list. It is 89% positive. It came out June 9th, 2021 as a visual novel. I really don't have any reason to say no to this. It artistically looks way different. It's an otome young maiden game. This is supposed to include all acts 1 through 4 though, so I think what I want to do is put the complete edition of The Remainder in the fall list. Remove this from the fall list, Act 1, and then not do anything with Act 2. And what very well might happen is that Act 1, since it's free, will barely got 38 reviews, but Act 2 will not get any reviews because it isn't free, and then in Act 3 and Act 4, which aren't even out yet, may get even less reviews, or the same amount of 0 views. I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of how it plays out. Let's see, Gamatsu has the Dragon Quest X offline first gameplay, which, yeah, I don't know if I really want to jump through all of this. 20 minutes of video to try to find something of interest to look at.
I bring unto you.
Here you can see they're trying to use green screen technology and not particularly good at it. Whereas the just screen the heads is fine. As for the actual game, yeah, this looks like a Dragon Quest JRPG. Doesn't look particularly good, doesn't look particularly bad. I don't know what to really say other than that. It does not, I will say, look good enough for what I expect to see in a Dragon Quest game. I feel like Dragon Quest 12 or 13 is what they're up to normally, and the polish on those graphics I think are way better. Gamatsu has the same information. Suicide Squad killed the Justice League story trailer and screenshots. We don't need to watch that video a second time. The Gotham Knights Court of Owls story trailer, behind the scenes videos and screenshots. We don't need to watch that again either. Let's see. They're showing here Batgirl wearing an owl mask that I don't think for a second is supposed to imply that that Batgirl somehow is part of the Court of Owls in this. That would be an interesting twist, but it would also be kind of misogynist that the three Robins end up fighting the one Batgirl in a potential sequel to Gotham Knights, or halfway through Gotham Knights. Plus, the Court of Owls tends to be a group of rich elite crime bosses, like people who have been successfully running crime in Gotham for decades without Batman knowing anything about it. So I don't see how Commissioner Gordon would be part of that lineage, that Batgirl could have been part of the Court of Owls, and why all of a sudden she would have become, or she would have, I don't know why she would have ever even become Batgirl if that was the case.
Verifying access.
More than likely this is either not really Batgirl, or they forced her to wear the mask for one reason or another. Moving on, Gamatsu says the supernatural mystery visual novel 9-9 is coming to PS4 and Switch in spring of 2022 in Japan. Which, I don't know if there's a video or anything here. Apparently not. So, we haven't heard a lot about visual novels coming out lately. I think Japan is somewhat slowing down on the visual novel front. This may just be the slow part of the year for them. Plus, we're definitely hearing of a lot of changes happening at big companies like Sega, so there might be smaller changes happening elsewhere. Get that.
You fairies are the best.
Then do we want to kill this? I guess we killed this way. And this way. Gamatsu has an article. Crystar is coming to the Switch on February 24th in Japan. Is this the one where the character is always crying? I remember that teaser like nearly 2 years ago, where the character is always crying, but I'm not sure if that was Crystar or something else. This clearly is a character though that is crying. The weird part about this though is it's almost a fetish of seeing anime girls crying, and then it seems to look like just a very generic JRPG experience otherwise.
Like the maggot you are. Hey, let's play.
So I guess the question is, did Crystar ever come out for anything else? First launched on the PS4 in Japan in 2018, followed by a North American European release in 2019. Man, it's been a long time. I've been covering all of this. Here you can see it on Steam. It's rated very positively overall. It's been mixed in the past 30 days. What's funny is I think there might have been a different trailer or teaser before. Because I vaguely recall something different. Yeah, this is the one I think I remember originally. Just a completely different animation style. $59.99 English and Japanese full audio. Then a whole bunch of DLC also available. Looks like costumes. This is on my wish list. But it is also weirdly one of those games that just will never have relevancy. So
Terminal. Activate dimensional startup.
there's
Reforming dimension.
really no reason why I would rush to play a game like Crystar, and probably will never get around to actually playing it. Let's see. Pocky and Rocky Reshrined has been delayed to spring 2022. This definitely sounds like a Japanese game that may never actually come out to the West. I guess it is coming to the West. It has a Western publisher, Natsumi. I vaguely recall a game called Pocky and Rocky in the old days, so this is probably just a remaster of that, but I don't remember it ever being particularly popular. This week's games releases: Archetype Arcadia, Blue Reflection Second Light, and more. There was an interview I saw where the animator, or one of the animators for Blue Reflection, talked about how in this new version of Blue Reflection Second Light they've kind of cut back on the fan service, the girl on girl action, the lewd implied imagery, and this was the thing that people have warned about and people were afraid of, is that it's a self-censorship that the Japanese are kind of more than willing to take on, as they continuously get negative feedback from, for lack of a better term, SJW Western video game critics and Western sites. People who very much would never have played a game like Blue Reflection in the first place. So we will have to wait and see if there's a poorer reception now to something like Blue Reflection because they've self-censored themselves, or if it doesn't really matter in this case, because definitely it won't matter in a lot of cases until it starts to. It will definitely be a case of boiling the frog, and one day we will just wake up and there will be no Japanese games that feel like Japanese games anymore, because they'll be so Disney-fied and so sanitized that they'll just be dull and boring. I did hear on another podcast people who actually live in Japan, although not actual native-born Japanese, if that matters, talking about how even JRPGs to them is a pretty bad RPG mechanic, like turn-based. They were talking specifically about turn-based RPG gameplay mechanics, and so yeah, I'm not sure if native Japanese people actually like the turn-based RPG mechanics either. And they just haven't found anything better yet. And maybe one day they will find a better system. I don't know if this article is really telling you anything about these games though, other than that they just came out. And I don't know anything about this game, Archetype Arcadia. I feel like Famitsu specifically has already reviewed Blue Reflection and given it fairly high reviews. So I bet the reception isn't particularly going to be that bad. It is also fair to say Blue Reflection is not a Shinron Kagura game. It's not a game where the entire conceit and idea is to have ninja girls fighting and losing bits of their clothing as they take damage. Blue Reflection is more of a Otome Young Maiden style game where you're free and safe to explore potential lesbian vibes if you have it, and if you don't, you just can play the game and pretty much ignore those elements. Here we go. Let's see. Moving on, Dragon Quest Kisai pre-registration is now available in Japan. This looks like this is probably a mobile phone game. Yeah, and it does not look particularly good. Just looking at the thumbnails of this video, I don't even have to click play to see that this is one of the lesser Dragon Quest products. They announced way too many Dragon Quest products a year or two ago at a Dragon Quest event, and now that some of those are coming out, it is presenting itself as what it obviously was going to be, where it's mostly garbage and attempts just to empty the pocketbooks of fans. Copy of your leftmost card. Discard a card. I think you have to hit this. I think you have to play this.
Fulfills my existence.
I think you do this.
I hold purgation in my hands once more.
And then that. Random followers.
Oh, guinea pigs, where are you?
I don't see any way I survive here.
Ah, the design fault lies with you.
Here you do that, you take a damage, you lose. So we're still struggling 3 hours in to get that final victory, but I would be overall satisfied if we don't ever get it. Let's see, Komatsu has an article here. The Kids We Were, Complete Edition, launches January 26th for Switch and PC. This looks like it's a polygon game of probably no interest. I think we've seen trailers here. Kind of feels like you wander around, talking to people, just hanging out, doing kind of Japanese kid stuff.
To defy the shadows?
It doesn't really feel like there's much of an actual gameplay mechanic there. It seems like it is kind of a slice of life experience. Let's see. Dying Light has been rated by the ESRB for PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox Series, which I think we probably already knew that, but whatever. I think we already talked about Crystar coming to the Switch. Crystar for the Switch coming to the West in 2022. If not, it's apparently coming to the Switch in 2022. Elden Ring has been delayed to February 25th of 2022. A closed network test begins November 12th. I think a lot of people probably were more hyped on this game than they should have been. And so this is probably the biggest news of the day. But to me, personally, means practically nothing.
Useless puppets get no love.
At this point, anything that even tries to look slightly like a Dark Souls game is losing my attention more than it's gaining my attention. It's been played out and overdone so much. Here we have a game called Scale Enhancer, which I don't really understand music, so this would be quite the puzzle game for me, but I'd be willing to try it. I generally kind of understand things, but I couldn't read the sheet music directly. 79 cents, English only. I'm going to put this on the fall list. It is still a minimalistic single screen puzzle game, but it is doing something different visually at the very least. Let's see. Play this rush. Do this and do this. Kill that. Get that. And play that. Here we have a game on Steam called Click and Slay, which looks kind of nicely animated for the characters, but then the background and the interface doesn't really make a lot of sense. Feels like there might not really be much of an actual game here, and you're just potentially running into random characters that you just click on. Yep, that's exactly what this is. It's an idle clicker game, and that's why the interface looks terrible. These are probably pre-bought images of creatures. $4.24 English only. That's definitely going to be a no. We don't see a lot of clickers, for as many as there could be, but there has also been only maybe 2 or 3 actual successful clickers out there, so
Pretty handy after all.
there's probably a reason why people haven't made a ton of them. Here we have a game called Red Button, which looks like it's probably a Russian troll game. Graphics look awful. Looks like an NES game. Free to play, English and Russian. No to that. Here we have a game called Pilly Pals, which doesn't look like much of anything.
So, we'll do this the hard way.
Yeah. Family friendly puzzle game, it says. For $17.99, English only.
You have summoned the blade of purgation here.
I'm gonna leave this on the fall list and see if we can get some reviews, but I bet we don't. Here we have a game called Grim Earth, which looks like it's a platformer or a point and click adventure game. Not sure which. Some of these screenshots look interesting, but some of these screenshots also just look terrible as far as being too dark, too bright. Yeah, it definitely feels like you're probably just doing a frustration precision platformer. Let's come over here and play for a second.
Activate dimensional startup.
Begin.
Reforming dimension. Commencing transmission.
I'll see you in purgatory.
Okay.
Enemy identified.
Yeah, I just don't think there's enough of a game here that I would want to play. But it definitely looks like there's enough of a game here that some people would want to play, so check it out if it interests you. $11.99 English, full audio. I would suspect it might actually have full audio. Here we have a game called Sandfall, which looks like an RPG Maker garbage game. $6.29. Here we have a game called Dark Crypt, which looks like a Crypt of the Necrodancer clone. Turn-based puzzle with horror themes. Yeah, I don't think there's anything here that interests me. $6.29 English only. Kind of expensive. Let's see what this.
Can't believe you slapped me.
That. Hit that. Hit that.
Don't forget to snag some merch.
That. Next we have a game called Kilo Manager, which seems like it's a German game from the way things are spelled. Clow Manager. $5.39 English and German, yeah. Does not look visually polished by any means. Here we have a game called Savior of Light, which, no, obviously. Free to play, English only. Here we have All to Race. Yeah, there might be something here. Early access, $2.09, English only. At certain points, being too cheap in a racing game, in my mind, makes an excuse to not give it a chance, and that's probably the wrong way to play, or to look at games. I don't think we talked about this game, Sunshine and Overcast, but I definitely remember seeing it on Friday. You have here what frankly looks like a hyper-realistic 3D model with the features that kind of feel like you copied a sex doll, as far as that, and then the outfit kind of feels like you copied a sex doll too. Apparently this is supposed to be a visual novel, but really it just looks like it's an asset flip that just uniquely has a fairly hyper-realistic single asset and then some fairly garbage other assets. Free to play, apparently with an autoplay mode for 79 cents, English only. Which, yeah. If you need to sell DLC with an autoplay mode, you probably made a bad game. Let's see, do this.
And see that you carry out your mission.
Sleep.
Do this.
Zephyr is never over. Go.
Hit this. Put this on the field.
Carry out the mission.
Do that. Doing that.
Knowledge fulfills my existence.
Let's see. Next we have Halloween Stories, the Neglected Dead Collector's Edition from Big Fish Games. You have a very standard hidden object game, or I would assume it's a much more standard hidden object game, although in all fairness, this looks fairly unique. $12.59 English, allegedly full audio. Thanks for the consistency, I suppose, Big Fish Games. or actually they haven't been very consistent in their pricing, but they have been consistently slightly overpriced in my opinion. Here we have a game called Bunny Puzzle, which obviously is just a jigsaw puzzle game with bunnies. Bunny images, $2.99, whole bunch of languages it claims. Here we have Typomancer in the Feather's Way, which looks like it is a typing game trying to integrate also a platforming side-scrolling shooter experience. And yeah, that's probably too much action for a typing game. 84 cents, English, Portuguese, Brazil. Typing of the Dead is a gimmick, and frankly, I don't think it really works at all in reality. And I think any other game trying to do that gimmick probably would fail, where Typing of the Dead was the first, and that's the only reason why it's even ever talked about. Speaking of talking about things, GameDeveloper.com says Valve bans cryptocurrency games and NFTs from Steam. Now, the question is, could you use the blockchain in some other way on Steam? I think you probably could, but not for cryptocurrencies. So, or NFTs, which I don't know what else you would use a blockchain for, and I don't know if Steam wouldn't, if you did anything with a blockchain, you would have to probably reward somebody for allowing you to use the blockchain, and any kind of reward would be probably considered some kind of currency, even if it is just an in-app currency. GameDeveloper.com says this is welcome news for developers concerned about the growing impact of cryptocurrencies on climate changes, and for developers worried about the numerous crypto scams that have cost purchasers thousands, sometimes millions of dollars. What's funny about this is I don't think either one of these articles are linking to a game developer article. This first one is linking to New York Times. This one is linking to a Vice article. So when you see that, and when you're having to reference or link out to a third-party site, it does open up the idea, certainly, that maybe GameDeveloper.com should have at some point written their own article talking about cryptocurrencies in some way, so that they could reference themselves instead of having to go to another site. Of course, it is kind of standard fare for mainstream video game journalism to just be lazy, write very few articles, and then link to some other source that wrote a much more in-depth, more intriguing article. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Midnight Driver, which, yeah, I don't think there's anything here, but I'll give it a chance. I'm being quite a pushover today. $9.99, English only. Here we have Slide Stories Bucky's Quest, which just looks like a slide puzzle game, so we can say no to that. $1.19, English only. There's some animation in the image, but it's still just a slide puzzle game. It's tagged as a visual novel, so maybe there's some narrative in it too. This. That.
This'll be over quick. Pretty handy after all. Pretty handy
Didn't hit
after all.
that. Let's see. Next we have an Asian game, Rebirth Land of Zombies. What's interesting here is that it seems like it's a female model only for the zombies, which, you know, you kind of don't get an equal split as far as male and female models in zombies. Like, it's almost always closer to 70-80% male zombies, and then maybe you get 20-30% female zombies. And then if you get to something like Left 4 Dead 2, that there are female zombies, yes, but then a lot of the special infected females are depicted as insulting characterizations of females, where the form of like the jockey, for instance, I mean, I guess he's supposed to be short and short of stature, and maybe that's supposed to be an insulting depiction, but it's nowhere close to the way the female boomer looks. The male boomer, in fairness, also looks like a morbidly obese monster, but the female boomer looks even worse. And then the female spitter in Left 4 Dead 2 definitely looks like she is a trailer trash person in her outfits and dress, or she was before she became a zombie. I also would probably have to applaud this, if this wasn't a Chinese game, for not showing cleavage. There's always weirdness when you see like a horror game that's hoary, bloody, and horrific, and then also there's a nipple showing or a lot of cleavage. Like, I don't know how many people have that kind of fetish, if anybody actually has that kind of fetish. But I definitely have seen that in the past.
This'll be over quick. Pretty handy after all. Hold still.
Go ahead and kill that. Let's see.
Truth and lies.
I guess we'll just play that. As for this actual game, though, it still looks like it's just an asset flip game. There's nothing going on there. Next, we have 100 hidden dogs. We can say no to that immediately. 99 cents, English only. Here we have something. I think this is Boko Hime Project. But I'm not sure. So it'd be the cross-dressing game where the boy, the younger brother, is cross-dressing as a female to find out what happened to his sister and go to this all-female school. Looks like there might be some romance paths here, if that's what this is. This clearly is not translated, though. English not supported, $49.99, Japanese only. And I guess if you hadn't been watching the trailers, you probably wouldn't be able to tell, if you didn't read Japanese, that this was a boy cross-dressing and this is his male form.
I'm coming.
Even though this doesn't support English, I definitely want to see how well this succeeds. There is a lot of homophobia in Japan, that regardless of the fact that they will occasionally allow a game like this or a story like this to be told, actual acceptance still is somewhat lacking. I think a lot with the older generation too, in particular. Right, so let's just play that.
This'll be over quick.
Then we'll do that.
Everything was a lie. Pretty handy after all.
Here,
Pretty handy
here,
after all. Hold
here,
still.
and here. Go ahead and give Bane to something else.
Everything was a lie.
Do we want to recover? Yeah, might as well just recover now. But yeah, I definitely would like to see, since this is a good test case of Japanese players on Steam, on the global Steam storefront only, I definitely am interested in seeing how the reviews go for this game, and if it gets a lot of reviews and a lot of plays. There is also certainly still room for growth, because the way the Bokuhime project story seems to be going, as far as I understand it, is it's an unwilling person being forced into cross-dressing for a very specific non-gender identity or sexual fetish reason, which really is an acceptance of cross-dressing as a concept. It's more just tokenization or objectification or sensationalization. I can't say that word apparently. Sensationalization. That's what I mean to say. But what you definitely aren't having in the story of Bokuhime is a person who was born genetically a male that wants to dress as a girl and is just doing it for that reason. And in fairness, as far as the Western visual novels and Western dating stories, narratives that have been told in Western games, we haven't seen that happen either. Not really.
I like who I am now.
I can't think of a single instance that comes very close to that. You have like Poison, maybe, in the Poison of, I think, Final Fight series is where Poison's from, maybe, as a character. You have Birdo allegedly being a transgender character, but kind of nobody else. You'd think one of the Final Fantasy games would have a character like that. It'd be fairly easy when you have such a long-running series and so many characters. You could have easily rewritten one character that way if you wanted to. And yeah, I can't think of any animes specifically that stand out as far as cross-dressing. So, and I can't really think of any mangas or anything. Not anything that isn't just straight up porn. And I imagine there's plenty of it in straight up porn, but yeah. Let's just go ahead and win.
Let's do this again, okay?
It would be weird, certainly, to look back 10 years from now in retrospect and say Bokuhime Project broke new ground as far as cross-dressing media, and that we saw a whole bunch of it. It's just very questionable whether anything else would follow suit. There's plenty of like musicals and movies in the West, Rocky Horror Picture Show, things like that, Kinky Boots, whether it was cross-dressing, but it was never consistent, and we've seen less of that, not more, lately, I think. Moving on. Let's just burn through the rest of the news. We've got about 20 more tabs. Here we have a game we can immediately say no to. Schmutznik is what I think you'd pronounce that as. $11.99 English only. Here we have Ninki Seiyu, How to Make a Pop Voice Actress, which looks like this is a visual novel game where you're acting as a producer of a seiyu. That's the Japanese word for a voice actress. $31.99 Japanese full audio, English and Chinese interface. put that on the fall list. I feel like though this is pretty much just going to be a visual novel though, so I wouldn't really expect there to be much of a gameplay mechanic there. Here we have a game called We Are Blacksmith, which looks like nothing. $1.69, English only. Here we have Sprite Sequence Chapter 2, which looks like garbage. Let's see what Chapter 1, if it ever got reviews. It's free. It got 22 positive reviews. It came out on July 22nd or July 13th of 2021. There might be something here, but the problem is the Trojan horse element here, where the first chapter is free and then the second chapter wants $2.99. By the time you get to the third chapter, do they want $7.99? By the time you get to a fourth chapter, are you asking for $24.99? But yeah, I'll consider it, because it does look like there is somebody attempting to do something here, and this isn't just random BS. Next we have Battletops, which is random BS, with the small exception that I think kids actually do like Battletops. Yep. Aren't they called Beyblades officially though? Like the actual copyrighted term. Yeah, I would be much happier if kids played with Battletops in a virtual reality instead of a real reality, but I think you lose a lot of the fun playing in virtual reality. This doesn't look visually polished at all. You have to also apparently sign in via Twitch, which makes no sense. Requires a third-party account. Not that it has just Twitch integration. It requires it. It says. Yeah, I feel like you just poke out an eye with Battletops. I would definitely not want to have kids playing that. Plus, it looks like a fairly boring game after about 20 minutes. Or a boring toy. Here we have Constellation Board Meeting Jam Edition, which looks like an asset flip horror game from best I can tell. Free, English, allegedly full audio. Here we have a game that is just Asian characters, so it's probably a Chinese visual novel. If it is, the animation's pretty good. Let's see, $2.54 English, no, Chinese only. Chinese full audio. Here we have a game called Digital Janitors, which looks like garbage. Let's jump around here a little bit. I still have a few news articles I haven't covered. That's kind of ridiculous. Which Spring R has a video. Second teaser trailer. This is, I think, kind of a Stardew Valley type game. Except for you're a witch and you're making potions and running around, maybe doing more magical things. It doesn't really look like something I'd want to play though. Let's see. GameDeveloper.com, FIFA knocks exclusive licensing deals, casting more doubt on the EA partnership, according to GameDeveloper.com. Check out that article if you're interested. GameDeveloper.com says Twitch data leak didn't expose passwords or login credentials. Full credit card numbers also remain secure. This is what they're claiming, which ideally you would want to keep everything secure and separate. Separate and secure sometimes are counterproductive, but that would be ideally what you would want to do. Particularly in a database, you could have a random generated number that coordinated a password and a username, and then have a separate password database or password table. Not really database. You wouldn't want separate databases probably, or maybe you would. I don't even know how you really secure at a certain level. And I don't think Twitch knew how to secure it at its level of users either. But yeah, you could obfuscate a lot of things and not have usernames and passwords in the same table, and then potentially have different people authorized to access different tables. But more than likely, any kind of security flaw that lets someone get almost all of the data available for Twitch, all the source code, indicates that there was just not a good enough level of security for anything else. And so maybe they only put time and effort in securing passwords and credit cards, or passwords and usernames and credit cards were all being handled by a third-party software company or provider, and that's why it was secure. Or Twitch is just lying and all of those things were leaked out. I wouldn't be surprised if they're just lying. There's much more of a problem if they don't lie than there is if they do. Moving on, GameDeveloper.com says Epic Games Store to welcome games that use blockchain technology. Which I don't know. Like, blockchain as a concept, I think might work, but cryptocurrency using blockchain doesn't work for me, and I think most people. There is this website, I think it's called DTube, that I have my videos posted to, and it allegedly posts and hosts the videos using a blockchain technology. Does that really make sense? No. But it does decentralize the idea of one server, like YouTube, having the only copies of your videos, and that's where it could be useful. So if you made a game where every player's save files were on a blockchain transfer and everybody playing the game was verifying and keeping some percentage of all the save files, then that might work. I don't know if that saves anybody any bandwidth, and it almost certainly doesn't save anybody any CPU cycles. Yep. But I think we may very well have a new kind of internet created in the next few decades where everything is fairly decentralized. And to get onto the internet and browse a website, you may have to plug a 10 terabyte hard drive into the browser so it can just download and upload and blockchain other websites and servers. A lot of websites probably aren't even that small, that big. So when you're not talking about their internal database stuff, if things like torrents had been integrated into a browser, so every little image on the website was being served to you by the closest person's computer who has also visited that website, it might significantly speed up the downloading of a website, but probably not by that much. They have definitely found other ways to speed up websites. Anyways, moving on. GameDeveloper.com says the Tencent-backed TIMI Studios group debuts a new branch called Team Kaiju. Former Halo 4 lead designer Scott Warner and Battlefront vet Rosie Zargocheva are heading up a studio, which it is in Los Angeles and Seattle, apparently. I don't know if Team Kaiju is particularly a great name for a office, but whatever. There probably doesn't matter what their name is. Here we have a game on Steam called Nuclear Blaze, which 2D firefighting game from the creator of Dead Cells, it says. Is that really true? If it is, it's under a completely different developer name and publisher name. I'm gonna put this on the follow list, $8.99. I'm not sure if I really believe, though, this is from the creator of Dead Cells, but whatever, that'll come out eventually. Video Game Chronicles has an article here. Xbox has apologized for confusion after seemingly teasing of Fable news. The tweet saying it was ready to kick off something special caused a stir on Fable message boards? On social media. What am I? That's what that said. On Sunday, the official Twitter account for Xbox Game Studios Publishing posted a tweet which appeared to suggest Fable news incoming. We're excited to kick off something special tomorrow, it said, adding, just give us one more day to prepare the chickens, with a chicken emoji. And then there's apparently a quote here, we call it our Fable anniversary, but that name was already taken. And then their tweet here is, sorry for any confusion. We don't have any big news for tomorrow or any information about Playground's upcoming Fable game. And wow, they must have thought that they were allowed to announce something, or the person in charge of the Twitter feed was just quitting in a spectacular fashion. Almost certainly, you kind of have to take this as the idea that Fable, some Fable game, is actually in the works. Unless it's just been secretly canceled. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's weird. Yeah. So, here's Revolution Software on the 14th, mentioning the 25 years anniversary of Broken Sword. So I guess it's not today that's the actual anniversary, it was a couple days ago. Gamatsu says Salt and Sacrifice for PC will be exclusive to Epic Games Store, and it's due out Q1 of 2022. Which, I guess that's probably fine, since I haven't played Salt and Sanctuary, and I'm not sure I ever would. And there's just so many games. I am playing a lot of old games, trying to catch up, but I really have not caught up. Nor have I really been able to really afford buying new games at full price on day one. I could do it for a few games, certainly, but not all new games. All the new games I'd like to play. Time is more of an issue, really, even more than money, though. GameDeveloper.com, Nintendo drops info on the new subscription pricing and a paid Animal Crossing DLC. I think we've already covered this, but check out the article if you're interested. And then Gamatsu says Disney Magic World 2 Enhanced Edition launches December 3rd in the West. Which, yeah, this definitely looks like a game that kids who are fans of Disney will like. I guess the question will come down to, are kids fans of Disney these days? Do they care at all? a lot of these cartoons and these Disney princesses are from movies from many, many decades ago. You would be in your 30s or 40s if you saw some of the Disney movies in theaters. Here we have a game on Steam called The Abandoned, which looks like garbage. Asset flip horror game. Actually, this is like the first asset flip horror game we've even seen today. $4.24 English only. Here we have a game called Fish and Bubbles, which looks like nothing. $4.99 English only. Here we have Irmão Grande Brasilia 2, which sounds like it's a Brazilian only language game. And looks like it's not much of a game. Maybe some mini games mixed together. Looks like a lot of text regardless. $14.99 Portuguese Brazil only. Here we have the end of Dias? I guess that's Dias. Looks like an asset flip like game. Asset flip. I don't even know what you call it. RPG? Garbage. Just call it garbage. $11.99 English and French. Here we have a game called Teal Grounds, which looks like it might be a horror game, but it's suffering from major dark screenshot syndrome, so I'm not willing to give it a chance. $2.99 English and Polish. Next we have a game called Cursed Dungeon, which looks like nothing. 59 cents English and Russian. Next we have Plague Doctor Contagion, and then some numbers, which looks like obviously a troll game, asset flip, low polygon game. $2.99 English, allegedly full audio. Next we have a game called Space Palm, which looks like it is a 2D platformer with some minigame elements, but it doesn't look visually polished enough to interest me. $5.99 English only. Got about 10 more of these. I have a game called Lack of Water, which looks like garbage. Garbage physics game. $4.49 English only. Here we have a game called Bounty Below. And what's funny is there was one game I skipped today, so I'm not even showing off all the games. I skipped exactly one, and still there's just a ridiculous amount of garbage here. English only, free to play. Nothing there worth mentioning. Here we have Pathological Tires, which a racing themed puzzle game. The idea of a racing puzzle game where you build roads and tracks does intrigue me, but looking at this interface totally turns me off. $10.79 English only. That's also way too expensive for what that's showing. Here we have a game called Assembly, which looks like it might be a 3D puzzle game. Fairly grotesque, putting together animals from pieces. It's not a terrible concept. It's poorly implemented on animals though, and clearly there's nothing else to this game. It's just a skybox and an empty field. $2.99 English only. Here we have Sakura Hime, which it definitely looks like it is a lewd visual novel game. I'm not sure if it really is even a visual novel. I'm not really seeing any text. If anything, it might be more of a puzzle game. See, it's tagged hentai, otome, cats, and female protagonist. $3.19 with a patch. English, Chinese, Japanese, German, Russian, Portuguese, Brazil, and Korean. "10 girls" probably means 10 encounters. For $3.19, that's probably not much, but so far it's got 100% positive, and I am being a pushover today, so I'm going to put that on the follow list. And as long as these adult games start off censored and then have an uncensored patch, I don't feel like it's completely past the realm of possibility that I could cover them on YouTube. That being said, I haven't seen anybody put anything particularly racy on YouTube lately. Let's see. You probably could get away with it right now in the middle of the pandemic. Here we have a game called Shadow Killer, which looks like nothing. $1.79, English and Russian. That would be fairly weird if it turned out that people having free time and staying at home were flagging more videos on YouTube for not being family friendly. I don't think really almost any videos actually get manually flagged by a human. I think it's all automated. Rain puzzle here. Looks like nothing of interest. 59 cents, English and Russian. Here we have a game called Astro Incorporated, which looks like nothing. $14.99, English and Spanish. Here we have a game called Bloody Everybody, which looks like MS Paint level graphics. It's just kind of a shame, because if this was drawn nicely, there might be some themes here that actually interest me. 89 cents, whole bunch of languages, claims it has support for. I don't know if I really believe it. Here we have a game, Dracula's Coming. Seems like in the last couple of weeks before Halloween, they're trying to have more horror and Halloween style games. It's probably too late at this point though. $1.79, English Russian. Nothing there of interest. Here we have If You Go Down in the Woods Today, which looks like nothing. $7.99, English, allegedly full audio. And then finally we have Battle Chess 4000, which I'll put on the fall list. I'm not sure if this really is from the makers of Battle Chess. I guess it is. Interesting. I guess Battle Chess 4000 is the either third or fourth game in the series. Seems like Battle Chess 1 is relevant as a game to talk about. And it was released 2017. And then Battle Chess 2, not quite so relevant. And then apparently there was a Battle Chess 3, but they're not releasing it, or they're skipping over the number 3 just to go to 4000. It still looks like a fairly old game, though. I don't think this really just came out. There were a couple of chess games that tried to be like Battle Chess that were announced a couple years ago, and I don't know if they even ever came out of early access, which it was very odd for them to be in early access as a chess game in the first place. But that definitely pointed out that it is kind of difficult to find a good chess app that isn't just competing with something like chess.com. A History of the World Part 2 variety series has been ordered at Hulu. Mel Brooks is going to write and executive produce. This is from Mel Brooks' own Twitter feed. I follow him on Twitter. He doesn't tweet that much, so he's an easy follow. He's also incredibly old, though. Like, I would almost have to assume that his son Max is going to help out quite a bit on that idea. And it is definitely a case of it being a very different time nowadays to potentially make a movie like History of the World Part 1, or make a attempted continuation of that. Yeah, I don't know if Mel Brooks is going to be able to do anything great with the rest of his life. He was making, like, I think the producer's musical was the last project that I heard he was working on. He's probably worked on a couple other things. But yeah. And the problem with making a musical is you're only going to get a certain audience, a fairly small audience. Musicals very rarely get turned into movies or go off Broadway to cycle or show musicals outside of New York. It's a very, very niche audience. I'm going through my Twitter feeds to open up a bunch of things. Bunch of games that came out. That Jackpot Bin Action is up to B14, just flooding Steam with the same games. I don't know if it actually is up to 14, but it feels like it is. He put out several games in a row. And generally speaking, that Steam does catch that kind of behavior and stops it and delists the games if you're putting out 14 games on the same day. What's funny is, well, there's a lot of games to talk about and a lot of news to talk about today, as there normally is. Man, it's been 4 hours. Last time I looked at the clock, it was 3 hours. I guess that's a good thing, though. Last thing you'd want to do is really feel 4 hours of streaming. While there's been a lot to talk about, there's not really been anything that I've been passionate to talk about today, which is a little weird. And the DC fandom didn't really do anything as far as announcements. Okay. So, like, Video Game Chronicles says Apex Legends Season 11 has been dated in detail. Check out this article if you're interested in that. Video Game Chronicles says GTA, the trilogy will reportedly feature GTA 5 style controls. Leaked product description also talks up improved visuals. Which, okay, I imagine the controls will be better because of that. Square Enix has trademarked the Divine Force in Japan, and Hamster has trademarked Console Archives. That's from Gamatsu. GameDeveloper.com says the International Game Festival, which I think is owned by the same parent company as GameDeveloper.com, has accepted over 400 entries for GDC 2022, which that is a lot of games that probably won't be given as a proper look to. GameDeveloper.com also has an obituary for Hiroshima Mr. Dotman Ono. A long battle with autoimmune hepatitis. I have no idea what that really would mean. Like, feel like that's probably AIDS, if I was to guess. And they're just not willing to say that in Japan. GameDeveloper.com says Sony has sold off the Game Show Network games to the mobile games giant Scopely, which, weirdly, I think Game Show Network games probably include a lot of the mobile phone games for things like, Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. And I suspect there is some fairly old fans of those games that play that. If you do watch Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune regularly, it does make a lot of sense to have the tie-in games because they give away awards, although odds of you actually winning those rewards are probably very low. And then GameDeveloper.com says Valve is reviewing all games on Steam for Steam Deck compatibility. Says it's hired a team of testers to evaluate how every game works on the handheld platform. Almost certainly that is creating a series of checks and automating the process. I seriously doubt even 50% of the games would actually end up being played in the hands of a game tester. That would be insane. And if there was a reason or need to do it that way, you'd almost certainly end up having a third-party company run some kind of contest or get free labor out of people by giving away gift cards or something instead of actually paying people to do it. Anyways, that's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.